Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I'm your Fleet Admiral and host, Julian Brown, alongside the best bridge crew, one crew member this week, this side of Janeway's trigger finger on the photon torpedo button. Captain Hawk is here, ready to take out the trash with a side of theta radiation poisoning. The rest of the crew ain't here tonight, man. But also joining us on our view screen tonight is our friend and host of SMP's new offshoot podcast, Alternative Space, Amy Imhoff. I think I got it right. Did I get it right?
Did,
I
yes,
did it.
Yeah.
Let's go. I've known Amy for like a year and a half now, and I was like, I still don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm really sorry. I'm horrible.
No.
Amy, what's up?
Not a whole lot. I mean, okay, yes, a lot, but not a whole lot at this exact moment. I have set aside my evening to talk about Janeway. Hawk, I wanted to say I love your background, and also I took the photo of Kate on the left.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I did this at random. That is such a that is a great coincidence.
So yeah, I'm excited to see your background and just excited to be here. Hi, everybody.
Hi. It's a big one. It's the big 7-0 for Kate, and what better way to celebrate this week? Because not only is it Kate's birthday this past week, I believe it was on Tuesday, it's still our 30th anniversary of Voyager celebration all year long. We are talking a lot of Voyager, and we're doing it tonight with this awesome birthday celebration. So, she's the GOAT, so like, why wouldn't we, right? I am going to give credit where credit is due. MC came up with this episode. She was here. She was not feeling well tonight, so she's taking the night off. Yeah. So Janeway, right? She wrote the book on the Borg. She became the menace to the Department of Temporal Affairs. And most importantly, she got her crew back home from the Delta Quadrant with enough shuttles and photon torpedoes to last another 7 years. So, lots to talk about tonight. But first, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it tonight because it's a special day for Strange New Pod as well. Just really quick before I go on. Hello to everyone in the chat. It's already hopping. Love to see you guys. Keep your comments, questions, Janeway love coming all night long. Before I go into our amazing patrons who have supported us for quite a while, which is what I'm about to get into, like I just said, May is a very special month for Strange New Pod, as it's the month that we started our first 5-year mission. Well, when May 29th hits, we will have completed that first 5-year mission. It's literally impossible to wrap my head around that. I don't know where the 5 years went, or the 233 plus episodes we've recorded. It's insane to me. But here we are. As I mentioned last week, 2025 has also seen us turn, as actually Amy has kind of been putting the word into my head in emails and text. We've turned into a tiny little network, which is pretty cool, with 3 offerings from Strange New Pod to choose from. Now, you got our live stream every single Thursday, and coming soon, we're actually going to be co-streaming back like the early days of Strange New Pod. We're going to co-stream on YouTube and Twitch again, so you'll have 2 places to watch us. So if you don't follow us there yet, I actually was bad and forgot to pull up the link before the show. If somebody could get that in the chat, I know I got really, really handy people in the chat. Throw our Twitch link in there. That would be awesome. So definitely click that and follow us there. We've got Strange New Adventures, which just started at the top of the year, which has been a lot of fun. We're playing Star Trek Adventures on the 2D20 system with a great group of our patron collective. It is so much fun. We have so much laughs, and we have a great finale coming in a couple of weeks to that. We finished our first adventure, and it was wild. And then now 2 episodes in, Amy and Giraffe's Alternative Space podcast, which like I'm gonna let you speak about in just a few minutes here. But I just want to say, like, on behalf of all of us, me, Eric, Hawk, Brittany, Aaron, Giraffe, MC, past and present, thank you. Thank you for the support, the love, just all of it. I'm eternally grateful. It's really hard to put into words just how much your listenership, your ongoing chats in our Discord, it's incredible. Our second 5-year mission kicks off in June, and it's going to be fucking incredible. So I'm glad to have everyone along for the ride. So with that, a big thank you to our amazing supporters at the Ready Room level a little above on Patreon. Simon Stager, Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Hui, Takaku Nagumo, Fernando Nogales, SMK, Colin Davidson, Shatterhand 2049, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Maggie Light, Wayne Ritz, Scone of Arc, Sean, Jay Howard, Mahalani Uchiyama, Matt Harker, Joshua Lewis, Tara Poland, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Aaron W, Carl Angoli, Michael Kwan, Caitlin, Elizabeth Dean, Jim McMahon, Sedano 317, Puka Hair, Three Fries Short, Cat Tip, Tripping the Read Alert Over a Pineapple, Sean Manning, Asher at the Bat, Chris Waterman, RHCB, Martin Simpson, Norman Buckwald, David Prime Hildebrand, Taryn J. Robinson, Rod Grenier, Eric the Red, Trouble, Jamie Roberts, Honeyberry, Paul Taylor Pitt, Brett Jones, Michelle P, Margin Walker 82, Melissa Bartell, Jesse Robbins, Kim, and Chris Finoglio. Welcome. I don't know why I'm saying welcome. It's because Giraffe's in the chat and she distracted me. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Who are you yelling at Giraffe about not being on the pod, Amy? It's totally you. I know it's you.
It was me.
It was you.
But also, my husband is watching downstairs, and he was like, "Where's Giraffe?" And I was like, "Thanks a lot."
Are we not good enough? Come on. Thank you to our patrons. You guys just keep this place running for the past 5 years, and we are so grateful. And always a big thank you to our Admirals, our executive producers, Simon Stager, Chris Waterman, Tara Poland, Brett Jones, Dana, Matt Harker, and Jim McMahon. You keep the photon torpedo stocked on Voyager. You keep B'Elanna happy with a purring warp drive. Everything is good when you guys are around. So thank you. And now Gene's yelling at Giraffe. So it's full circle. It's great.
Can't we all just get along?
Let's get into some quick news. Amy, I mentioned Alternative Space Above, and now your second episode has been released to the S&P Patreon Collective. It's coming to everybody else this coming Wednesday with Giraffe's interview with Jesse Gender, Jesse Earl. What made you guys want to do this particular show that you started? And I also want to ask you, what do listeners have to look forward to in the coming weeks with it?
So we wanted to start this because we had just met over and over again amazing women and non-binary voices. We're focusing primarily on women and non-binary voices. And we want to uplift those and give them some airtime in this fandom. I also have met so many incredible women in the space industry who are also Trekkies or who want to, just get more recognition for what they're doing in their careers. And I said, come on the podcast, talk about what you're up to. In terms of what you'll have to look forward to, I just banked our interview with my friend Raya Katz. She is a female pilot. She flies the Airbus 350, which is apparently the top of the line, state of the art, super amazing airplane. She flies for a European airline, and she does long haul flights now. You have to certify on that plane, which I did not know that you have to certify on all these different aircraft. So she taught me a lot about her career and also about how few women there are in aviation. Out of all of the pilots, she said it was 5% women. So
wow.
95% men. And I thought aerospace was a male dominated profession, but I do have some amazing women that I have been meeting with and I see at conferences. Last week I was at Massachusetts Space Week at it is run by the Space Consortium, but MIT was hosting most of the events. And that was run by women. And the Aurelia Institute, which is a MIT Media Lab space organization, also run by women. So mad props to Raya for being a pilot in that kind of environment. I know it can't be easy a lot of the time, but she said she's had an incredible experience. So if there's any aviation nerds in the audience, you will definitely have an opportunity to, you can even ask her some questions. She has an incredible online presence. And I just wanted her to be introduced to the fandom. You guys need to know her. And I think that's mostly what Giraffe and I want to do. We want to uplift these voices.
That sounds like it's going to be an incredible show. And I'm stoked. It's funny. Like, I don't love flying, but I
don't either.
I love planes. So that's really cool. I'm super looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. And
and I have a couple other space ladies, and I do have an astronaut on deck, so we will see who we're about to get. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to her. So we will see how it's just a matter of scheduling. Right now, this is the busy season for space as we are getting our conference season underway. So everyone's like, so for April, everybody was like, call me after May 1st. So now it's May 1st. I'm gonna call you now.
And I know you will, because
I will.
You get on that shit. Like you do. So I'm expecting it.
You gotta check off the to-do list, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Super stoked. The first 2 episodes are fantastic. Can't wait for everybody to hear the next ones. Alternative Space. It comes a week early to our Patreon collective, and the next week to the general public. And it is awesome. And a little bit of a bonus for 10 Forward and Admirals, you get the video, which literally no one else gets. So maybe a good reason to upgrade. I don't try to push the patron often, but this is a good reason to get on board with it. So Trek Long Island. Amy's gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. Giraffe's gonna be there. It's gonna be awesome. And we are giving away 4 passes to Trek Long Island. How do you get your hands on them? It's pretty easy, pretty simple. Send a DM to any one of our socials. Discord excluded, please. I want to give everybody, the wider audience, not just our Discord collective, a chance to win. So Blue Sky, Threads. I don't think you could DM on Threads yet. So Blue Sky and Instagram, DM us there. And with a phrase, a very specific phrase, coffee black. Okay. And be one of the first 4 to send us that, and you will win passes to this year's Trek Long Island 3, and we will hope to see you there, because we have an incredible schedule of things. I know, Amy, you have an incredible schedule of events and panels, and just
I'm excited. The STEM track is going to be really cool.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to all of it. So get that in. You could start DMing us now, or you could just stay and enjoy the pod and DM us after. Yeah. The Stranger Worlds novel, Toward the Night, is now available, and I started reading it. I'm hooked. It's amazing. We'll be interviewing New York Times bestselling author James Swallow about it in a couple of weeks. The last time we talked to James was like very early on in this pod. I can't even remember the name of the book at this point.
The Riker novel.
It was the Riker novel with Thaddeus and Troy and Romulans, and it was fantastic. Dark Veil. Dark Veil. There it is. Thanks, Hawk.
You're welcome.
Really good book. That interview will premiere on YouTube as our May 22nd episode. So look forward to that. MC, who was going to read this but can't be here tonight, is on Trexperts Quiz this Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Undefeated champion Kelvin Wood, this is a big one, folks, is taking on Trek Culture Sean Ferrick. This is going to be like an all-star matchup.
That's going to be pretty intense.
And I know for a fact that MC is writing one of the hardest quizzes she's ever wrote for these two. So I'm pretty stoked for that. I think it's going to be epic. 8 p.m. Eastern on the Trek Sports Quiz YouTube channel, or it might be the BQN one. Someone should tell me that in the chat. Again, please. I think that's it. Does anybody else have any news? Amy, you could share news. Hawk, anything?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything right now. I've just been very steeped in the eastern seaboard of Space Week, Massachusetts and New York. So nothing that is immediately relevant to the collective and to the listeners.
Fair. There we go. Well, then finally, I will say, get your hands on some awesome Heroes and Villains merch. If you haven't, go ahead.
I lied. Today, we launched a Kickstarter with my new client, Neville Page.
That's right. That's exciting news.
That is saying. So I was saying personally, Amy, but for Neville, he's having a great day. I think the last time I looked at it, they had already raised $11,000. The goal is $79,000, so we got a bit to go. But it's open for the entire month of May. You can find him at Neville Page on pretty much any platform. I have been helping optimize his presence. And he is such a nice guy, like just a delightful human being. And I know you guys had said you interviewed him.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know who he is and what he does, he is a production designer. He worked on Picard. He worked on Discovery. He created the Kelpians, the look. He's a creature designer. He created Arium. He has worked with Doug Jones before on Falling Skies, which is a show that I really enjoyed because my husband Noah Wiley is the main character.
You and Noah Wiley, man.
I love that man. And so he's also done Tron, Prometheus, Cloverfield, all sorts of just he's got things in sci-fi, fantasy, horror. So he's putting out this book called Beauty and the Beast. And it is going to be this gorgeous coffee table. Oh, do we have a surprise guest?
Oh,
did
she log on? I love to see it.
Was she bullied into coming on?
She was totally bullied. She's going to complain when she gets on.
Oh, yes.
Gosh darn.
Stop texting me. God.
That is the best peer pressure to get on the pod campaign I think I've seen in the 5 years we've done this. So
I was like, I'm going to take a night and I'm just going to go and like finally do my dishes. And Jeannie's like, no dishes, just pod. And like, I was like, God.
Amy, I also say that Neville is a bit of a controversial subject, but Neville is also responsible for the Discovery Disco redesign. And he's actually got some really amazing things to say about that design.
Yes, he does.
So,
and there's another book. It's The Art of Neville Page, I believe.
Yeah.
But this is going to be more of a not just a retrospective of his career. It is going to be teaching the art of production design. So it's also going to be if you purchase at a certain tier, he's going to be doing a series of classes called Uncharted, and he is going to be hosting that through the School platform, SKOOL.
Oh, very cool.
And he has been a teacher for a long time. He's taught at least 3 or 4, maybe even more than that, universities. Yeah. So he and I just started working together. I'm getting to know him better. And just this book is going to, my brother went to school for animation before he transferred out of art school because it was insane. But he learned to draw and, took drawing classes. And Neville has really taught from it's like the ground up almost. It's very impressive what he wants to accomplish with this. And also like to demystify the process of becoming a production designer and working in Hollywood. And also like not gatekeeping. Like that was like kind of, we talked about that. Cause I was like, I said, cause he was describing it to me. Yeah. And I said, so you don't want to be like the gatekeeper, and he's not, he's not really he knows what it means, of course, but he said, I didn't even think about it like that, but you're correct. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really great.
We might have to back that and talk to him about it at some point.
Oh,
Amy.
Yes, that would be great. Yes. We'd love to have him. I've been telling him all about the Star Trek podcast community. So
he is, like you said, just a fantastic human being. I'd love a chance to be able to talk with him again. So, looking forward to that. And then Heroes and Villains. Get your hands on their stuff because the new Star Wars stuff, the new Andor stuff, Marvel, everything. I am wearing one of their awesome Star Trek shirts. Get your hands on some of that stuff. The Canadian site is live. We have an email site. We have an email out to them about it. So maybe Canadians can start using our code too.
Oh my goodness.
But for now, still Americans over here in the States, 20% off. One of the few things going on in this country is our Heroes and Villains code. 20% off using the code STRANGE. Draft, since you joined us, do you have any news?
No, it's Free Comic Book Day this Saturday. Go support your local businesses. Go buy comic books. I'll cosplay at my favorite comic book place in San Diego. It's called Kamikaze. It's in Claremont. They're really cool, really nice people. So yeah, go buy comic book in comic book store. Stop buying them on Amazon. Stop having them downloaded God knows how. Go support your local comic books. Yeah, right?
Go outside, nerd.
And they're like, there's a place, it's a place where you meet fellow nerds also. I met so many friends, like Thomas from the Sick Burn podcast. I met him at the comic book store.
Nice.
Like, come on.
Even Brittany's going to be out locally this weekend.
Yeah, Wade's.
Comic book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Giraffe, Matt is asking you about FanFest, but I'm going to divert. I'm going to divert because we're already 21 minutes in, and I want to
There's
get the
gonna
show
be
going. There will
an
be
article.
Draft wrote an awesome write up on it. It'll be out tomorrow. And there's also a reel, so you won't miss anything. There's going to be lots of stuff on it tomorrow.
You
Check
can text
it
me.
out.
I'll tell
Yeah,
you
you could also
everything
text
that
Draft.
I've not written in the article.
Oh, I want that dish.
Ooh, I like that. Draft's always got some good tea. Let's get to the strange new loop. This is, I feel like, a softball. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it is. Who and what is Captain Janeway or Admiral Janeway to you? What lessons have you taken from her? Anybody can go first.
This is a very difficult question.
Yeah,
it is simple and it is difficult. But someone else go first, because I am going to marinate for a minute.
All right. The way I view Janeway is it was such a challenging role, right? Because you have to. It's asking the question: how would a captain lead their crew outside of the trappings of the Federation and Starfleet, and that completely on their own in an alien turf? Would their ideals hold up? And I think Janeway was definitely written as a character who is not only capable of upholding the ideals, but also remaining human throughout it. I often think like Picard wouldn't have fared so well in the Delta Quadrant as Janeway did.
I feel like Jean-Luc might have actually folded under pressure in the Delta Quadrant.
It's the stoicism.
They can't handle kids, so like, you know.
Yeah. But also it's the stoicism of the character and the way he always kind of remained a little away from the crew in that. It was completely different for Janeway, right?
Yeah.
She was open, she was gregarious, magnanimous, and approached most everything in her life and duties with a measure of joy. If I think that's the best description.
I think that was very well said, Hawk. Well done.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's about being a good leader. It gave me an example of leadership that I respected. There's a lot of female leaders that you see on TV that it's not really leadership. It's more like of a, I will make everybody happy. And Janeway is not like that. Janeway is the one taking the decision in the end, and she has like earned the respect of everyone. And I think like she is also a leader that is really no bullshit, which I really appreciate. Like a photon torpedo is a valid answer. And I think that when you compare to, for example, we're talking about Picard that is really into like, let's discuss and have the conversation. And, she listens, but ultimately she takes the decision. And if you have a problem with that, then you're going to get airlocked. But I think for me, she was the first type of female leadership that was unapologetic and strong, and also sometimes, I won't say violent, but like in your face. That was a revelation for me. Now we see like Avasarala, for example, in The Expanse. Like we see other female leaders like that, but in the 90s, like
correct,
that was not a thing.
It was Scully, Janeway, and Buffy, and that was it.
And Buffy is a kid,
Exactly.
She has also the recognition of the establishment. She is a captain. She has Starfleet behind her, The others, like if you look at Stargate, for example, Sam Carter, she was not in a position of really leadership of the team. She's not the one calling the shots. Buffy, she's not really the one calling the shots either most of the time. There is nobody above her in most of the show.
Yeah.
And that was inspiring. Sometimes I'm like, if Janeway did it, I can do it.
Oh, totally. Yes, 100%.
What would Janeway do?
There's some more new merch we need to put out
there.
Yeah.
I want that on the back of my car,
Yes. It's funny you mentioned merch, because for a long time we kind of wanted to do merch. Like I wanted to do merch, and Kate was on board and donating the proceeds to like Alzheimer's or something. So maybe we will still do merch.
Hey,
maybe
there
we
you
can
go.
do merch. Maybe we can do merch as a podcast, because it would be sanctioned.
There you go.
WWJD.
Yeah.
Not
There it is.
Jesus, though.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Janeway.
You need
The
like a
other day.
silhouette of Janeway to make sure people know you're not talking
With a
about
little
Jesus.
insignia in the end.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no.
Or maybe JW.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to answer the question of what does Janeway mean to
Do
you,
it.
which is a very difficult question because I think I'm just going to say this, no one else knows the experience of what I have experienced with Kate. And being a steward of Janeway's legacy and being someone who's kind of a bridge between Kate and the fans, she is the captain. That it is a good way to describe her because she is the captain of her crew, the captain of that show, which has all those implications that they talked about in the documentary about a whole network riding on her when she was on. She's the captain of her family. I mean, she is one of 8 children, 8 children, 8, and then one of her sisters passed when she was quite young. And she's the captain of her career. Like, everybody in her life depends on her the way they would depend on Janeway. And I think that that's even more why she was the perfect person for the role. And of course, there has been so much said about her stepping into the role after someone else was cast. And she took it on the way she takes everything on, which is with her entire being. And I think that is the only way that role could have been taken on because, like you said, John Luke would have folded under the pressure.
For real. Yeah.
I'm going to tell Kate you said that. She's going to love it.
You should.
And for me, just, she is a strong leader. Talked a lot about, she has influenced politics. She's influenced AOC,
Yep.
Stacey Abrams. Like they've written articles about how the Janeway effect versus the Scully effect, which is more women in law enforcement and STEM fields. And Janeway is both a scientist and a leader and a captain. So she is doing all of these things. And she's just like, she's a mentor. She is goals.
She is goals. Yeah.
So there are so many other things that I can say that are like emotional and saying, what an honor it is to work with Kate and to be somebody who can facilitate and or witness amazing moments between her and people who have accomplished, like, I am an astrophysicist because of Janeway. I am a jet pilot. I am like, there's just so many incredible, usually women, but everybody who come up to Kate and say, I did this because of you and I've made something. And I mean, I've done this because of her. Why do you think I work for space now?
Yeah.
It's like, it's the most, it's a great feeling. It's an empowering feeling. And I really love it. And I hope I hope we share it effectively with Kate's fans because that is ultimately what she wants to have her, like, and that will be her legacy. She talked about that on Trek Talks. It would say something like, her obituary will say something like, Captain Janeway dies at 120.
Yeah.
Finally, was what she said. Finally.
Oh,
but that will be her lasting legacy.
Yeah.
So, and then she coming back with Prodigy. I mean, going on the Prodigy ride it's been crazy. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Prodigy, we're going to talk about Prodigy near the end of the show. And I love your answer. Yeah, Kate is fantastic. Janeway, equally fantastic. Would not be possible without Kate putting who she is into making Janeway what she is. So I absolutely love your answer. We have some great answers in the chat as well. Some funny, some serious. Jim McMahon, avoid Captain Braxton is a lesson I would take from Janeway. It's a good one. Colin writes, I love how she was firm in her leadership, yet let her gentleness with other people show all the time. Threve wrote, Janeway would hand you your ass, but do it with a smile and a wink. Absolutely true.
Well, she said she winked at Rick Berman on her way out the door from the audition, and she thinks that somehow that
oh
helped.
my God.
Rick
Every time I
Berman.
learn something about how they shot that show, I'm like, yes.
It's amazing.
God, Rick Berman. And Kate is nothing but gracious about Rick, but I have the power to say what I think. I can say what I think on that one.
For me, I've talked on this show a lot about how, like, Cisco was really like my captain growing up. Like he really influenced me in a time when, like, I didn't have a father figure, and he was kind of my father figure because he showed what a good dad could be. But I was also madly in love with Voyager, and I learned a very big lesson and became a big part of my personality from Janeway, and that's something that Giraffe said. It came from Janeway, and later, as I got a little bit older and graduated high school, it also came from Katie Sackhoff's, portrayal of Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica. The two of them, no bullshit between.
I mean, Starbuck is.
Yeah,
I love Starbuck.
Between Janeway's no bullshit, Starbuck's no bullshit, and I got cancer very, very young, and going through that, I just like. From then on, and like already kind of having it from like these two characters that I absolutely loved, I just don't have much of a filter because I don't have time for it. And I think that has gotten me, into places. I think it has maybe gotten me out of places and gotten me in a little bit of trouble, but I don't care because I think that it's really important to say what's on your mind and do it in a way that people understand what you're saying without any doubt. And they gave that to me. I love that about Janeway. And I think that's kind of true about Kate. Like every time I've watched Kate do an interview, she's been very matter of fact. And, that goes into like how much she's put herself into the character.
We hear a lot from men who were raised by single moms or, just had a very, a good, a solid relationship with their mom, or who didn't and who needed that. And for me a little bit, Janeway has definitely been that, because I do not speak to my mother any longer. And it is, but at a young age, I feel like I knew that I needed other female role models. And I talked about like Counselor Troy modeling emotional health, and Dr. Crusher being like very cool under pressure, and, very, great at her job. And that's, inspiring me into my career was like where my career has taken me. I can definitely attribute it to Kate. And literally, I had such a terrible boss in my first job, and my second job she was fine, but she wasn't great. And I was just so done with having shitty bosses. And and when I launched my own business, I literally was like, I'm sick of everyone else. Bring me Captain Janeway. It's like how it didn't mean it for it to happen like that, but it did.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
Nice.
that if I say bring me Captain Janeway, then I can work fucking that's like you just put it out in the universe and the universe gets it back?
Gives it to you, right? Like
oh man.
It did not give nothing was given, but but I think that it was because of her example that literally inspired me to go up and talk to her and say, you need help with your online presence. I am a great person to do it. Let's work together. And she was like, let's have a meeting. And that was, where it went. And I think she values that ability in other people because she was like that. If you read in her memoir, she said that she like breezed into some big casting guy's office and said she'd met him at a party in the Hamptons, and he told her to come in, and he was like, you're lying, but come in.
That's awesome.
Like that's in her book. Like people who appreciate someone who,
works, right? Like works.
Who takes the effort to ask.
It's a question of audacity. Like a lot of women, like as women, we're taught to not be audacious. We taught to be silent. We're taught to be in our place. We're taught to not ask for the things, right? Be gracious. And I always say, like, I go through life with the audacity of a man. I'm like, what would a guy do? They would go and they'd be like, I'm the best. I'm like, yeah, I should do that. And it actually works. Like,
and it was funny because when Julian was just saying that he doesn't have time for this stuff and he's going to be himself and he's going to be loud or whatever, and I was like, and you can do that because you're a white man.
fair, but I think I don't want to like say just because I'm a man, but I also think I'm probably worse than some other white man with how direct I can be. So I don't know. I feel like Giraffe knows how pretty direct I am.
I think we in this group appreciate directness though.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
for
and
real.
I think also it's also a very French thing. Like French people are very direct, and here I feel that I had to adapt this a lot. But I think also like Janeway is about having the audacity. And I'm like, yeah, let's have the audacity to ask for what you think you're worth. So I'm glad that Kate Mulgrew is the same.
I mean, she
sense.
has to be. If you're raised in Iowa with like 8 kids, what do you think her future would have been if she hadn't decided I'm going to New York? Goodbye.
Yeah.
When she was 19.
It's wild. We could keep on talking about Kate and Janeway all night and what she means to us, but we do have episodes.
Talk about
we
Kate
are,
and Janeway
we
all
are,
night.
but we're gonna go into Voyager and Prodigy, and we're gonna talk about episodes. I'm gonna do a disclaimer because I always get yelled at about the lists. This is not the definitive best of Janeway. This isn't even a best of Janeway list. This is just really good Janeway episodes. I took this from a bunch of different places. I added my own episodes in here.
Did I give you any notes, Julian?
You didn't
No,
give
I
me
did
any
not.
notes, and I appreciate that.
I have not read the outline, and I don't know
Yay!
what
Of course you
to talk
haven't.
about. Yay!
So if you have notes on my episodes, send me your list. I'm not even kidding. I don't mean that to be a dick. Like, send me
I
your
want to
list.
know people's
Yeah,
lists.
send me your list. I want to see what you came up with, because I do have a question near the end. Like, what did we miss? Maybe we did miss some. I know like a few people were like, no Endgame? I'm like, yeah, no Endgame. Endgame gets talked about
Endgame
all the time.
Endway does get talked about.
And I love Endgame,
I have
but we
one
just
that,
talked about
I
it.
have one that, you know, it's a nice to include, but I think you hit the big ones.
Thanks.
So.
Appreciate it. We'll talk about that at the end. Well, I'll ask you which one because I'm curious, but we'll talk
Yes.
about that at the end. Segment number 1, our first episode that we are going to talk about tonight, and our order tonight will go Amy, Hawk, Giraffe, followed by myself, is resolutions early on in Voyager's run, episode 225, I believe. The Captain and a Tub.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, okay.
So
Now I
yeah,
know which
yeah,
one I
you
was
know
talking
exactly
about.
what episode. See how easy that is?
We all know.
Winging this.
Winging it. Listen, Janeway and Chakotay, they beamed out to a planet. They come back with a disease that could like threaten all of Voyager if they stay on Voyager, but it doesn't do anything to them if they stay on the planet. So they are forced to leave Voyager and make a new life on this planet until Voyager can maybe find a cure. So they have no crew, they have no Starfleet, they have like a hut and a tub that Chakotay builds with his hands.
Priorities.
I want to talk about first, you know, it gets talked about all the time, and I know Amy hates this topic, even though I am a
What do I hate?
Chakotay shipper.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something about Tuvix.
No. Janeway
I
and
hate
Chakotay.
talking about Tuvix.
Me too, and a lot of people know that.
No, I am not against shipping. I'm not. I was a big shipper.
I thought you did not love the Janeway Chakotay romance.
There is a caveat. I do not, but it is only because they did not serve Robert Beltran's character nearly as well.
That's fair.
Especially because he was a Mexican man cast as an Indian man,
Yeah, right.
an American man. But just they didn't know what to do with him. He's not a very well written character as compared to nearly everybody else on the cast, especially Janeway. So I feel like Janeway is too good. Chakotay.
We could talk about
which
that.
I think is the best way to feel. But I was a shipper when I was in high school. I shipped them, and I watched it live because I'm old. I watched it live. So, and I definitely, you know, I read me some fanfic when I was like, you know, 16. It existed.
I want you to keep going, because that's our kind of like our first discussion point here. It's her refusal as days and months go on the planet to give in to that potential romance, right? It's Janeway's discipline versus her desire, which we'll talk about also later with Fairhaven.
Yeah.
This is kind
and
of
a little bit with Counterpoint.
Yeah, and a little bit definitely with Counterpoint as well. Talk about this and kind of her not, you know, basically taking Chakotay's advances.
I have to say mad props to Kate for saying that, because she said it's not going to be good for little girls to see that, and I am 100% on her side. I think that she didn't want girls to see Captain Janeway, you know, there's a good way to put it. The way to put it is like, you can't really give yourself entirely to somebody who's your first officer and also protect your ship all the way home. She had a much bigger job that she viewed as being, and yes, it's lonely at the top, and Picard would do that too, where he finally sat down at the poker table at the end. And I do think that Janeway had a super unique responsibility on her shoulders that we really hadn't. I mean, did anyone else ever have that kind of, like, that specific responsibility? No, not in the history of Starfleet.
And even when like on the planet, she still believes up until the minute they do eventually get picked up that she's going to be back on Voyager and Captain. So probably another big reason she doesn't ever follow through with that.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew the episode had to come.
Well, right, of course, right. Hawk, what do you think of? Oh, sorry, were you done? I'm sorry, Amy.
I just always like this. This is always something that we like to mention is that Janeway's authority is not questioned by her crew. She says something and it happens, or they do it and they listen, and they very rarely, I know they have lots of storylines where people don't agree with certain things, but the men respect her orders. They don't question her orders. And there was a show that I watched with Katie Sackhoff, which was also a sci-fi show, Another Life, where she was the captain, and I couldn't watch it.
It's
I watched
not good.
I watched like maybe half of it, and I was like, all they do is disrespect her as the captain and refuse to do what she says. Every episode is she's like, we're gonna do this, and everybody's like, no, you suck.
Yeah, that show is
Isn't
not
that
good.
that show where like somebody's like spinal cord just like leaves their body and becomes a thing, and then everybody freaks out? I was like, you should have listened to the woman.
Thank you.
I watched that show.
But yes, and I think it was good that she kept that line for girls. I understand that not everybody who watching the show was a young girl, and that is totally understandable if you shipped that, and if you wanted to see her in there. I mean, I love seeing Mulder and Scully.
Right.
It's like my number one ship of life. All I wanted from those two people was to watch them make out. Let's be real. But with Janeway, that is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's not how I saw her, right? And yes, I like the idea of her, like, the kind of Star Trek sex scene that you would have gotten would be everything would be very covered up, and it wouldn't be like, they had to be very.
They would have been covered up in Chakotay's tub.
Oh my God, the tub.
The tub.
But yes, and no shade. I if you ship, keep doing it. Yay.
Hey, nice.
But also, like, don't tweet weird photos at Kate.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I see them.
I'm so sorry, Amy. Hawk, what do you think about this decision on
Amy, I'm
Janeway's
also
part?
sorry you have to see those photos. Just because you're the last two people on Earth does not automatically mean that, you have to be together. Let's remember this was like year 2 of the series.
Remember, there was a monkey.
There was a monkey. So, like, maybe the feelings were there on Chakotay's behalf, because I think he was definitely thinking something along those lines. He was more willing than her to, like, kind of like ease into the situation. And it's like, hey, we're here. We might as well make the best of it. No, she kept the hope burning, right? The hope of rescue, the hope of finding the cure. I read this episode, like, that planet they were kind of stranded on was like, it was like the temptation of Eden, I guess, right?
It was an interesting choice.
Yeah. She could have, even if she wasn't working on the cure, there was a lot she could have done there, right? I think the primate was there kind of like to entice her scientific background in that. It's like, there's a lot of stuff I could be doing here in that. I could be researching this, researching that.
She is very funny the way she leaps all around the planet.
Yeah.
Like, look at all this.
But I'm glad she put her foot down with Chakotay in that scene, because it's like, they're stranded in that, but it doesn't mean like, they, automatically have to be together in that, because those things are based on feelings in that. And I don't think at that, Janeway didn't have those feelings for Chakotay at that time.
Yeah.
They kind of tried to exploit that later in Prodigy with a little nod to it and that, but at this point, no, it's like this. They were still Starfleet. He was still her first officer, and yeah, she maintained her priorities.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Giraffe?
I think it's the difference between being a girl and being a woman. When you're a girl, you see like all these like, oh, we're stuck in a cave, like fanfic situation where like you're gonna get laid, and then as a woman, you know that there are priorities in life, and when you're stuck on the planet, the first thing you're gonna do is not that. This is not even near the top priorities of anything. And I mean, it mostly reflects poorly on Chakotay, to be honest, because he's a first officer, and that's what you're doing, my man. You're just being like left on a planet in the Delta Quadrant, and that's your priority. Like, that is, I mean, that's crazy, but that's also kind of like on point,
Mm.
Yes.
So I feel like me in a situation of crisis, not crisis, but a situation where like you're stuck, you're trying to find a solution, you have like to settle. What are you gonna eat? What are you gonna do? And the guy's like, I met you a tub. I'd be
Yeah.
like, fuck you. This is not happening. This is not happening. You're gonna put this behind your ear and you're gonna go and you're gonna work. And I feel it's kind of like I am I wrong?
No.
Like,
No, if
not at
actually, you know
all.
what? Why isn't his first priority making better cover for those plasma storms, right?
dude, like don't get me started. But on the other hand, am I surprised? No. Like, you know, you're
No.
stuck in a car because like there is like too much snow and you're stuck and like the guy's like, maybe we should make out. I was like, no, we need to find a solution to not die, you know. Propagating
die.
the human race comes way down the list.
Yup.
So I feel that, I mean, in the context of the episode, it's kind of like, oh, will they one day, you know? But I feel that as I grow up and I watch this episode, I'm like, oh God, are you for real with the fucking tub?
It's funny though. It's funny though, because whether like I was a teen or an adult watching this episode, I've watched Voyager so many fucking times now. Like I have no idea how many times I've seen this episode. I never once thought, and I do ship them, but I never once thought in this specific episode that was ever going to happen, because she was so focused on getting back. Like her priority was still Starfleet.
Dude, it should be his priority too.
It should be 100%.
Yes.
Yeah,
And, like,
100%.
But
after
at
that,
least he
I know-
listened. He demonstrated. He like he listened.
Yeah.
But I would have made things awkward after that, you know, back
It
on.
felt kind of awkward after that.
Back
though.
on.
Yeah, they
Voyager.
definitely had a few spats, right? Too, like
Yeah.
after, yeah.
And I understand more the relationship that they have in Prodigy, because I feel like after years and years and going through shit and going through, you know, the thick of it, and like, you know, is your person. Like Tuvok is her person in Voyager, you know,
Yeah.
they know each other well. But yeah, I feel that during like something like this, she keeps the eye on the ball. She's gonna go back, you know? And everybody that's kind of like, well, losing hope or being like fatalist, you know, being like, I guess this is what we're doing now, is not even registering. And good for her, because if she had let go also, then what?
Yeah.
Then what? She'd still be on that planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, somebody just mentioned in the chat, Threve had to step away and
That's my
asked-
husband.
Oh, and asked if we were talking hi, lizard babies. And now I kind of regret not putting Threshold on here. But
That
we've
is one of my notes. Was you did not mention lizard babies either, and I
We-
appreciate you.
we are big
Everybody
fans
calls
of
it lizard
Threshold on
babies
this
now.
podcast.
Don't get me wrong. I love me a lizard baby joke, especially a lizard baby tattoo, which I have seen many of in person, because people will show Kate at cons while I stand there and facilitate the line.
Giraffe has
Anthony.
a soundbite dedicated to lizard babies.
Lizard babies.
There it is.
Yeah,
See?
it's where they were still making fun of my accent.
We never made fun of your
Aw,
accent. We
I'm
just like the way it sounded.
kidding.
I want to keep talking about Janeway's ethical responsibility, right? And her loyalty to Starfleet, because this isn't just in this episode. This is throughout all 7 seasons of Voyager. She stays loyal to the mission and the Prime Directive, even when no one's watching, on away missions where she gets captured. Like in season 1, like I think it's episode 2 or 3, when they get like trapped on that planet that's like, you know, like maybe like a few days earlier, that's like gonna nuke themselves basically with Tom. And she's like,
Oh.
no, we can't break the Prime Directive. We can't break the temporal Prime Directive. Like, come on, man. This is, you know,
She'll break it later. It's fine.
she sure will. A lot. But she does still have that Starfleet mentality, even when, I mean, listen, they got lucky back on Voyager that they were able to come up with a cure. Like they were going to be trapped there, and she stayed Starfleet through and through. What do you think about this, Amy?
Oh, I think. What else would they have done? That's kind of my thought, right? Like Janeway is always Starfleet through and through, you know. And sometimes, like, to her detriment, like that. Remember the episode where Tuvok was like, I broke this rule and I did this because you couldn't, and it was a good chance to get home. I forget which episode.
Which what was it again?
I forget something happens and she like basically passes up a chance to meet with somebody who to give them like some kind of technology to get home. I don't remember.
Oh, it's the portal episode.
Yes,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says, I did it because you couldn't. Because you like your Starfleet principles, like, you know, and he understands, like he clearly wanted to get home just as bad as everybody else. And I like that. I think Tuvok had a lot of really strong moments like that are maybe not like, they're not loud moments, you know, but and then that's kind of why they're like so tight. That's why they're besties, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because he's a badass. So, but also just Janeway was voted in a poll. I think it was Psychology Today did a poll of which Starfleet captain would you most like to serve under, and Janeway won by quite a bit.
Interesting.
Nice.
Sure.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's a good option for sure.
Yeah. To serve under as a leader. Like people really, really responded to her leadership style, and it was like more nurturing than Picard's, and you know, very different from Sisko's. And I think they wanted this captain when they just described her and like, you know, the pitches for the show, they wanted her to be more like Kirk. They wanted her to get her hands dirty and go on away missions and be a scientist and be excited about everything. And in a way that Picard definitely, like, you know, he wasn't like as enthused about something the way Janeway is enthused about science.
Yeah.
And
he's enthused about archaeology, but in a very bad way.
In a very bad way.
I'm sorry.
Wrong way. Wrong.
Wrong. It belongs in a museum anyway.
Of its country of origin.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I think it was, I think her holding to her principles was what the precedent they had already set by that point in the show. That was the only option for her, I feel.
Yeah. Hawk?
I don't really think there's much I can add to it in that. Other than the fact that, like, I think her background as a scientist gives her a good understanding about what causality and consequences look like in real life, right? And I think, you know, viewed from that angle, and that she views the Starfleet directives and that not just as, you know, rules and that, you know, that kind of get dispelled when, you know, the going gets tough a bit, and that she understands that they're there for a very simple reason, that, you know, causation, consequences, and that are very real things.
I think that's a great point you just made about her being a scientist, really like helping that a bit too. Like on the planet, I strongly believe, had this been like a two-parter and they kept going and Voyager hadn't found a way to save them, I really do think that she would have scienced her way out of that situation with Chakotay. Like I really do. And it was cool to see her just like keep at it, and also to a point, like the devastation of like losing her research too. It's like, oh man, that sucks, because like whenever scientists, really anyone, loses their research, like, oh boy. Yeah, great point, Hawk. Dref.
Yeah, she kind of like, I was expecting her to Robinson Crusoe her way through that planet and just rebuild like Starfleet headquarters. You know, I think it talks also of like having a moral compass that you keep with you. And, you know, you hear people who are like very religious very often tell you, when you say that you're not religious, like, well, what stops you from murdering people and raping everybody? And you're like, well,
because it's
you can have other kind of moral compasses, you know? And I feel that like her attachment to the rules is also, you know, it's an important lesson, especially for me, who is you know, I kind of forget what I'm doing very often. And having, you know, kind of a book of rules where you go back and you're like, oh yeah, I'm recentering myself around something that I know is important to me and something that will help me take decisions when I'm lost. You know, keep the North. And I think it's interesting to see how she does that with Starfleet, because it's not only blind, it's not blind.
No,
it's
definitely
informed. Not. And it's something about the heart, about like keeping your heart from feeling lost. And I think it's a good, I think it's something a lot of people could like learn.
Yeah.
Or do better.
Yeah. Yep.
Do better, people.
Do better. Great chat on this episode. We're off to a great start. We are going to go right into segment 2, or episode 2. and that is Year of Hell and the Captain at war with time.
Love that episode.
We did the big 5-year celebration of the pod at the top of the show. For those that don't know, Year of Hell was our second ever episode we recorded as a podcast because Brian Fuller had done an interview with Inglorious Trexperts about how he wanted to do, and Ron Moore, I think it's also why he
literally just named the only 2 men in Hollywood that I trust to write women, Brian Fuller and Ron Moore.
Yep. They wanted to make Year of Hell a season of hell.
Yes, they did.
And we talked about that, and they were just like, no, which is a shame because it would have been amazing.
A month of hell? A month?
No, a season.
Season.
No, it's a Lower Decks jokes, guys.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Boy.
That's right. Gene will be happy.
Look at me having to explain you.
To be fair, I have not seen Lower Decks multiple times the way I've seen other Star Trek shows multiple times.
Already got people talking about this episode in the chat. Claudia goes, Year of Hell is one of the most beautiful quotes from Janeway. I think I know what quote you're talking about, and I agree completely. Listen, just right off the bat, Janeway's resilience and just moral clarity, right, during this crazy prolonged crisis. She keeps the family together as long as humanly possible. And even when it's not, she stays with the ship, right? And she has, I believe this is the quote that Claudia is talking about, that beautiful moment where blind Tuvok is trying to talk her out of it. She's like, no, Jane, Voyager is much more than a ship, right? It's our home. It's, it guides us. It's brought us here. No, of course I'm going to stay with the ship. Just talk about Janeway's resilience during all 2 parts of this crazy episode of Voyager, Amy.
I love this 2-parter. I think everybody in the chat is probably agreeing with judging what you were saying. It is just such a showcase of, it's not just of her, it's everybody has a really good moment. But Janeway is the one holding it all together. Time's up.
Yep, time's up.
Just a great soundbite. You love a good hero moment with a good soundbite. Yeah, she's just and it's funny because I like how you put it that she's at war with time. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's actually we know that happens in other ones.
It's kind of the theme of her and Voyager, right? Of all 7 seasons at some point, right?
But they have, but she just showcases and I see why Ron and Brian wanted to make it a season long type thing, but I don't think TV was ready for that kind of sustained misery that we got in Battlestar Galactica.
No, Battlestar was the first to really do it, and we all loved it for that, right?
Yes, yeah. But that show is also that is not a show I rewatch all the time, the way I watch.
I tried to do a full.
It's
full
very
rewatch.
Emotionally taxing.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, and I had to stop at the episode where Kat dies.
Yes,
where they go through the radiation, right?
Episode.
And I'm
that is the most grim
I think
episode.
I just need to stop. Yeah.
Just I'm sobbing. And when I went to the Battlestar Galactica reunion in Chicago in this past October, because it's been 20 years.
Oh my God.
I know, it hurts. Sorry, guys.
My bones.
I know, right? Literally. I grimaced earlier while Giraffe was talking, and it wasn't because of something she said. It's because my foot has been bothering me, and there was an ice pack under my foot, and I was moving it because I'm old. We are old, said the addition. But I know why they wanted to sustain it over a season, because it was so effective on Battlestar, and it would have been very interesting to put these characters. But then I felt like it would have been more cheapened by the fact that they would have to snap back.
Yeah.
I think they would have to.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was always just such a jarring ending for me, where it's just boom, it's done.
Yeah.
And I was and it never happened, and that never happened to her, and that was a different timeline.
It's the Yesterday's Enterprise ending.
Yeah.
Huck?
I love those endings, though. Because of what she went through and what the whole crew went through and that to get to that point. I don't know what it is. Like she, it's a hard one to discuss, but her resilience was there on like pretty much every step of the way. From like her initial conversations with Chakotay when things were really really bad and that, and he was suggesting maybe they abandon ship. They basically tucked themselves away on some planet. And she just poo-poos that and that because she says this is a family and that we are all stronger together, and I will fight to the last to keep this family going. And this was the ultimate test for her in that, as far as being like stranded in the Delta Quadrant. That this was as bad as it gets. Like the ship was basically like at all times felt like it was on its last legs. But she already, it was great she kept the crew together in that, because at least in doing that gave them time to come up with a defense. They came up with the shielding and that allowed them to be immune to the temporal effects of the
and
weapon.
this whole coalition that she put together.
Yeah.
At the very end, and that was
Like
always
this guy
part of the
is
strategy.
bullying the whole quadrant.
But that was her advice for it's like, we'll find resources, we'll find allies, we keep going in that. And I hate reducing women down to the mother role in that, but at the same time, that's what she was doing. She was being a mom in that. It was like, moms at the end of the day in that, even when things are tough, they're about putting one foot forward in that and getting by to the end of the day and, approaching into the next and, hoping and praying for the best, I don't know much more I can say.
No,
Right
again, very well said, my friend. I also want to read Matt Harker's comment because it's absolutely accurate. The moment of Janeway hugging Tuvok was really touching, about stuff we've just been talking about, right? Like that relationship transcends time, space, and everything. It's just one of those epic friendships. Yeah, great moment. Dref.
I can write a whole thesis about that.
I know.
Because there's so many important theme in it. It's about the futility of trying to control what is not controllable, and it's all about people being stuck in grief, and somebody that doesn't want to accept grief or accept loss, and that keep trying to replay different ways to take, like, you see so many people right now saying like, we're on the wrong timeline, we need to fix the timeline, and it always makes me think of Year of Hell. And I'm like, there's one point where you need to accept loss, and you need to accept grief, and it's gonna be terrible, and you need to go through it. And then there is a moment after that. And the thing that is so interesting in this episode is that you have, what's his name?
Anorax. Yep.
Who like refuses to accept that moment of loss and grief, right? And at the same time, you have the crew of Voyager that just go through losing everything and stays together, because in the end, what you have is the people around you, and that's all you. And it's all you have. And that's because she believes in the people, and in like, there's this moment where she's like I'm not putting away this family, I'm not separating this family or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's keeping people together, because once they're by themselves, they're lost and they're gone, and they won't have anything else to hold on. And that's what you see in Anorax, right? That constantly rewriting time. And the enemy is not time, it's the enemy is control. And accepting that you don't control things. And if you read The Great Gatsby, it's kind of like there's also controlling time and controlling your destiny and controlling that this moment in life that you need to accept that you cannot go back. And what happens when somebody actually can go back? And I think it's a very human episode, because every single one of us, if we had the opportunity to go back, we would do the same thing, and we would be terrible people. and
Fair.
And because you can't see the, like, it doesn't even compute how many people are impacted by what he's doing, because he's single focusing on one thing, and the ripple effect of it is kind of something that he doesn't want to know, or he doesn't want to, accept, or like totally see in its entirety.
I don't think he cares. He has a singular focus, like in his mission, right?
I actually disagree with that. I think he does care, but it's like
It's not important. Yeah.
Right. I think there is a care. I don't think that Anorax is like a supervillain, right? I think that he is just a broken person. And I think he does care about the things that he's doing. But like you said, Giraffe, singular focus. I care, but the mission comes, it's all about the mission.
And it's all about accepting that time brings change.
Yeah.
And change can be painful.
Yeah.
And you can't control it, but you have to grow and you have to change. And people around you have to grow and people around you have to change. And you have to be resilient for it and just find how you can be another person after that is still aligned with what you believe in. It's a great episode.
Isn't
It is. It really is.
Isn't it funny that
You make it.
Go ahead, Amy.
No, go ahead. Go. You do.
I was just gonna say, isn't it funny that we're talking about Anorax's decision here and everything that he goes through to try to change this moment in time, and then we just talked about this very subject a few weeks ago with Timeless, with Chakotay and Harry, and how they did the very thing that Anorax was basically trying to do, but they got away with it. But at the end of the day, they also erased billions of time.
Still fucking wrong.
It's still fucking wrong. Exactly. So
and that's what Geordi tells them.
Yeah. But Geordi also tells
Geordi
also tells him what you just said. If I was in the position, I would probably be doing it too, because of course you would. Of course we would. Yeah. So it's a great point, Giraffe. What were you gonna say, Amy?
I was gonna say the like. What something that very much struck me as a kid watching it was when one of his officers, like a young man, says something along the lines of, "I realized I was celebrating birthdays for the dead because his family everybody had died out because that's how long they had been doing this."
Mhm.
Like the scope of how many years he had been running around trying to reset the timeline was crazy to me as a kid. And it still kind of is if you think about it. Like, well, it was what Giraffe was saying about he has no idea how many people he actually affected, how many lives and people who died or lived, and the way it changed, because it's incalculable almost at that point if he's been doing it for that long.
Which is another interesting point to bring up, and we're going to talk about this in a second when Voyager flies into Anorax's ship. Like, how does erasing everything that Anorax did actually affect the timeline again? Because he was doing it for so long. For these things time is so weird to talk about in Star Trek. Like, these things never happen, but they're still in the current timeline. So like people just like, it's almost like the blip in Marvel. Like these people like show back up again. Like, what kind of chaos does that cause on the planets that just all of a sudden reappear? Do borders get
time snapping backward? Like, so there's an episode of X-Files where they describe it as time snapping backward like a rubber band.
Yeah.
And everything was being switched back to the way it was. And then eventually that whole episode didn't happen either. Yeah. And it was just them facing each other on the road, and then they drove away instead of something happening. Yeah. And it was like, I think that's how I see it. That's how I see like the temporal mechanics of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the symbolism and the speech that we've talked about of Janeway at the end. Definitely another theme with Janeway wanting to sacrifice herself for the good of the crew and for the good of getting them home. Flying Voyager alone, not knowing that it would work, by the way. Just like she says, maybe all of this will be erased if I destroy the ship. And she flies Voyager, the ship that has, been there for them and gotten them this far and is their home, into Anorax's ship, right after basically talking to Tuvok about how Voyager is basically a member of this crew. Like, how do you feel about the symbolism of her doing that to save everyone at the end, Amy?
I was just like, Giraffe said, very powerful, could write many words upon it. It is the ultimate self-sacrifice to like lay down your life so that, maybe all of these people, it's not just her crew either. It's like his crew and her crew and all the people that were affected can like maybe have a chance at all of this horrible stuff not happening.
Yeah, for sure.
So I that's how I think it's, it takes a lot to do that. You think about it from an emotional standpoint after she'd been through everything they'd been through, and Tuvok, and I just that moment with Tuvok is great.
Yeah.
And it just, I like the moment also where with the watch where she's like, oh, this could
Yes.
Oh, with
recycle it.
yeah.
This could be a
Recycle it. And
hypo
he's like,
spray,
no,
a
I'm
new
not
pair of boots.
a new pair of boots. I know the quote, like I know the episode so well. It's just sad. but yes, and Voyager, and I think we'll maybe, like, I'm going to talk about this when we talk about the next episode. So I'm going to hold that last thought.
Cool. Like it. Hawk.
I mean, did she know it was going to work? No. But I think at the same time, I don't know if she really cared if it was going to work. But one thing she did know is that Anarax, could not continue doing this. So like it had a possibility of working, but at the same time, she was going to make him pay for this. Because she's a warrior at heart, and that is as great as she is, and as gregarious, and everything, as much joy as she had in life. She could be vindictive when it comes down to it, and this guy put her through a year of hell. And at that point, with the Voyager in his condition and that, I don't know if she really even cared at that point. She just knew that he could
It was
not.
falling apart.
Yeah.
She just knew that this could not go on, and he could not win.
She was also dying, if I remember correctly. Like, she had like all
Yeah.
sorts of
Come on. She
Yeah.
at that point she still had the scars from the burn.
Yeah.
Like getting the deflector shields back up, and that her lungs had been scarred by the gas from the nebula that leaked in. Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I forgot about
Yeah, all
that.
of that. She
Yeah.
just literally the year of hell. Literally.
Yeah.
Giraffe.
The three things about being a starship captain.
Keep your shirt
Tuck
tucked
your shirt
in.
in. Go down with
Down
the
with the
ship
ship.
and never leave somebody behind. Yay. I think that right now a lot of people feel that they don't matter or they can't do anything, and Year of Hell shows you that one person can do a lot and initiate a lot of change. And the fact that she's like, I'm dying, and you know what, I'm gonna try this because it may work, and if it doesn't work, at least I did something and I tried that. And I feel it's like the power of, well, I don't want to say sacrifice because it's kind of like a weird thing to say, but I feel it's the power of being, I can do something even by myself. I can operate change, and I can try something that nobody else has tried. And you know what? If it doesn't work and I die, at least I took that step.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great point. A question before we move on to the next episode about Janeway's legacy. Is this Janeway's chain of command, or In the Pale Moonlight? Is this her big episode, Amy?
I think you could definitely put in that category.
Yeah.
I have other ones that I love as
Same.
much or more. But in terms of like the strength of her leadership and the just sheer amount of things that are thrown her way in this episode, and the way they just pace it, like I know it's a two-parter, so they gave it like a little bit more breathing room, and I think that was a really good way to do it. Because it required that. It wasn't like a one and done kind of an episode.
Yeah.
You needed that full two-parter. And I remember it being it was always a television event. Like it was a whole thing. I remember on UPN they were like advertising it for weeks. It was in like the TV guide. I probably have it in my closet.
Do you remember when previews used to be good for TV, right? Like the golden age. Yeah.
It was the golden age.
was.
But yeah, so I think it's definitely up there. I would
Became that generation, huh?
Macrovirus is a good one like that too.
Yeah.
But she's more by her. She's only with like Neelix and then like the Doctor for a little bit. Like it's
Okay.
mostly a Janeway showcase episode.
Yeah.
This is like an everybody. Like yes, obviously she is the star of Year of Hell, but also like I said, everybody has like really really good moments.
Yeah, for sure. Hawk, what do you think?
If between the two, it's more a chain of command than in the Pale Moonlight, because it's not about like her morals being broken. Like with the way Cisco's were in Pale Moonlight, it's closer to chain of command, but for me, it feels more like her best of both worlds moment. Even more so than the Borg episodes of Voyager. This feels closer to that kind of feel. Where like cliffhanger, the crew and the crew is very much broken. Everything feels hopeless in regards to an enemy with a weapon, that is just the most powerful thing that they've ever encountered, and they have no defense against it. They barely have any defense against it. I feel like this is more of the best of both worlds for Voyager.
I like it. Draft, what do you think?
I love any Star Trek Die Hard episodes. And they're my favorite kind of
You also love
episode,
two-parters.
I love two-parters also. Is there a two-parter I dislike? Most probably somewhere.
Probably.
But I feel like the two-parters of Voyager are always very good. I think Equinox is another one where her power of leadership is like showcased. I mean, we talked about Endgame, and which is the one. No, I love all the two-parters in Voyager.
Yeah, right.
But, yeah. But for me, I think maybe Equinox is one that like strikes me more, because it's more about the enemy within. It's what happened when one of your own loses track of thing, and I think it's something that is way more powerful for me as an audience than that alien guy over there. We don't know what he's up to.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep. Good answer. For me, I feel like it's up there, but I will always say that Endgame is Janeway's like chain of command, or really in the Pale Moonlight moment, because she breaks like every rule to come back and fix them, and then Janeway, her younger self, is like, no, we're not going to go home. We're still just going to defeat the Borg once and for all and not go home. And it's so
Fuck
good.
The Borg.
Fuck the Borg.
Yeah.
Fuck the Borg. Let's move on to our third episode, which I really adore.
We're only on the third episode.
Dude, it's gonna
How
be.
many episodes are there? I didn't read the
There's
outline.
7.
I feel like some of these we could blow through. Hopefully.
I'm glad I did my dishes before.
Yeah, right. Let's talk about Night, which is the big like burden of command episode for Janeway, right? Like she isolates herself, dealing with the guilt of like stranding the crew in the Delta Quadrant because they're all going stir crazy, not being able to see stars or anything. It's just dead black. And it's a really, it's, I think, where she really struggles with the decision, not maybe for the first time, but it's I think like the hardest time for her to go back and look like, should I have saved the Ocampa, right? Basically. Let's talk about just that rare raw look, and especially in the 90s, at mental health and leadership pressure in this episode. Amy.
Everybody talks to Kate about this episode. It is a big analogy for dealing with depression, for dealing with isolation. The point that I was going to make that I have now saved for this one is COVID was a major catalyst for people to rewatch Voyager. And they really identified with feeling stranded and alone. There's even an episode where she fights giant viruses. And it also gave me an opportunity to be like, make a little fun graphic for social media where it was like Janeway shooting the macrovirus, and I put a little mask on that said wear a mask. So, and COVID being this analogy for isolation is just mirrored. Like that episode felt very suddenly relevant again recently.
Yeah.
And I rewatched it, and because everyone was talking about it, and I'd go on podcasts or I'd talk to people about it in a panel, and it's an excellent look at dealing with the stress of mental health that we didn't really get from any other Star Trek captain, except maybe I would feel Pike is kind of going through that, but it's more personal.
Yeah.
It's more he's gonna die. It's not I am racked with guilt over this decision, and how do I deal with that guilt?
Yeah, we've had it with Burnham also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Burnham.
Yep. For sure.
I always think of the shows in two pods. I think of like TOS through Enterprise, and then I think about Discovery through Prodigy, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I just see it like that. I was kind of comparing it to its contemporaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But another thing that I really like about this from a different point of view, which is space is hard. Space is difficult.
Yeah.
And dealing with something like this that is a space phenomenon, yes, it is a catalyst for the story, but it's also an analogy for how space is very, very difficult and can be very hard on people and people in. I know Samantha Cristoforetti is a huge fan of Janeway. She's the one who brought her uniform up to the ISS. It's rough up there, y'all. Like we are not there because we're having fun. We're there because we're creating. We're making science. We're doing science. We're figuring out how the world works and how the like even things like the mission I'm on for NASA, the heliosphere. Like we still don't understand a lot of things about our sun and how it protects us and how we exist. Like, why do we exist on this third planet from this exact distance? It's the Goldilocks zone where you can only have life growing in a certain place because the light and the warmth that are needed for us, like human bodies are picky. You controlling the atmosphere inside a space station and inside a suit is very difficult. I don't think people realize how difficult it is. So it's a good analogy for what the astronauts face and like kind of why they do what they do and why can be wearing on a person.
Yeah. Great answer, Amy. Damn.
Yeah.
Space is hard, y'all. For real. Hawk.
It's true, isn't it? Space is hard. I did like the analogy about the sun because, I mean, first off, this is a really it's a low-key great episode to open season 5, right? With this expansive space where it's absolutely starless, which means, they know that they're going forward, but only barely, right? And the depression angle is interesting in that too, because the starless sky is kind of like almost an analogy to like people who don't get enough sunlight, just like lack of vitamin D, and that is like the
vampires.
Yeah, they just go out of whack. But it was a great way of showcasing like a different aspect of Janeway, and that she was not immune to the hardships of it. 5 years in, and she's wondering like, what the hell about, have I gotten everyone into, and that it squarely falls on me because I was the one who made the decision in that. And, everyone else seems to be coping okay because they keep, B'Elanna,
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, B'Elanna, they don't have a lot to do. Everything else, B'Elanna says at the meeting, and that the engines are working exactly the same as they were yesterday, and that they're trying to find ways of occupying themselves. I thought it was going to go that kind of night terrors kind of way, like it's like the where everybody's kind of freaking out over imagined stuff and that. But you see, Janeway is a lot like a shark. When there's it's like when they stop moving, they die, right? And her with like with just moving forward, but not exploring, not being being able to find new ways of trying to make the journey shorter, with nothing to do in that, she's left alone with her thoughts. And that's for a lot of people that it's a pretty scary place.
Been there and done that. It sucks.
Haven't we all?
Yep. Dreff.
It's the episode with the guys who are dumping
I suppose
the
radiation.
Talk about that after, right?
No, not really. We're not going to talk.
No, okay. So
No.
I'm going to talk
This is all about Janeway.
Like, I was like trying to figure out what was the plot again. I was like, there's something that happens.
It's
not just them being depressed.
Radiation. The radiation.
The creature makeup. The creature makeup is cool.
Always cool.
Yeah, always. Michael Westmore, baby.
I like in that episode that it's about like the figurative void and the literal void and the darkness inside and the darkness outside, and it's like one of those like 90s episode where like very Captain Planet, where they were like trying to tell you it is bad to pollute, look at us now.
It was though, right? It was
bad.
Yeah. But
it hits a lot of like kind of like classic, episode trying to speak about pollution at that time. Remember the hole in the ozone?
Yep.
Yes.
But I think that what is interesting for me in that episode, it's about redemption through action. That at one point, yes, you can be depressed, and that happens to all of us, right? Especially like through COVID. I don't know. I like seeing nobody. But
I
that was
did
me.
not.
I
That was the
like
only time.
seeing
The
nobody.
only time I was
always say-
truly depressed was during
I'm
COVID.
really, really sorry for everybody who died. I lost a member of that family, but I thrived. I didn't have to do anything. Jomo, joy of missing out. I was at home. I was making my silly little cosplays. I was watching TV. I didn't have to wear a bra. It was
You joined the podcast.
peak of my existence. Too bad it was like when a lot of people died. It was bad. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, redemption for action is what we're talking about. But like that, at one point, what gets you out of overthinking your past decision and how you fucked up. I'm one of these people where I'm gonna be haunted suddenly about something I said in 4th grade, and I'm like, oh, God. But I think that you can make change by being the one who decide to act, and that's what she does. And you have like everybody who tells her like she wants to go alone, and
We're gonna
Isn't it
talk
the
about
thing?
that
And
in a
then, like, oh,
second.
yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, like finding a shared purpose is something that will help everyone in your community to not sink below the line. And I think that again, it's something very important that people should hold on to, is that when you're a community, when you're a group of people, and I'm very blessed to be part of an amazing community of Trekkies, is that I know that if I go below the line, there would be so many people that will help me find shared purpose and be like, Giraffe, we're gonna do that. Giraffe, we're gonna go there. Hey, what about this convention? And like literally drag me on the podcast when I said that I was not gonna be here.
For once, it wasn't me.
Success.
Gene.
We're gonna take a very quick step into the front of the podcast because I'm not gonna bother plugging these in, but you can just come talk. The Admiral is joining us because she is a massive Janeway fan. She has cosplayed Janeway both as Janeway and as evil emo goth Janeway from Prodigy. It is my wife,
Yes.
Karen, and
Hi,
Hi,
Karen.
Karen.
I'm going to make sure her mic is on. Yes, it is. And she's not going to be able to hear you guys. I'll put my headphones on for a second.
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh,
His
okay.
headphones
My
are
headphones
so
are super loud.
loud.
I'm going to scooch in a little bit more.
Are
I'm
you
going to
back now,
ask
Julian?
you, I'm going to ask you the same question. We asked at like the beginning of the show. What does Janeway, what does Kate Mulgrew like? What is she to you? What does she mean to you?
Oh man.
I know. It was a toughie at
hard
the
one,
beginning
right?
too.
I mean, Voyager was definitely like, I remember watching Voyager on syndication, like as a, late elementary school, middle school, high school. Like it was just always on. Shout out UPN San Diego. And
UPN Philadelphia over here.
UPN New York, let's go.
And I mean, I watched a lot of Voyager, and I just remember loving seeing like Janeway was no nonsense. She was badass. She made decisions in like sometimes in an unhinged way, but like always confident in them. Like she knew her shit. And that was just like, I don't know. It just always fostered like a love of the Janeway and of the Kate Mulgrew and just all of it. Like getting to see a woman like that on screen in a sci-fi show was not, that was still, unusual, even in the years after. And yeah, I mean, she's iconic. Like, what else can you say?
Very good. I love that. Thank you for coming on. Briefly, the chat says hello to you.
Hello, chat.
Say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. We're glad you popped in.
Yeah, the Admiral likes to show up every now and then.
Say bye.
I only do it because she needs a cue. She does. That was great, by the way. I know that, like, you know, Karen is not as big of a Trekkie as I am, but she loves Voyager and loves Janeway. So I really wanted to make sure she had a moment to come on and chat
And
about
say
her
hello.
and say hello. I'm going to combine these last two questions because they're pretty much the same for Night. It's something that we talked about during Year of Hell, that decision again to sacrifice herself, again, like that instinct to protect others first. She's going to take a shuttle and make sure that that void stays open for them to go. And they're all like, no, we're a family. We're a crew. You're not going. Like, we could figure this out on our own. And this is like finally this kind of development for Janeway where she learns to accept help, not just give it and feel like she has to carry everything on her shoulders. Amy, what did you think about this moment in Night?
I think there's and I want to shout out because I have read several very good articles about this episode and about that question specifically. So I think people, and I know some of them are on StarTrek.com. So if you search Year of Hell on StarTrek.com, there's some cool authors there to check out. Because a lot of what your opinion is changed and influenced and informed by, you know, kind of discussing these episodes. I watched Star Trek in a void, void. We're talking about Night. I watched Star Trek in kind of a void in high school because nobody else in my group was a fan. I was the only Trekkie. I occasionally would go onto forums and chat, but mostly it was like too adult. It was mostly like too adult for someone who's like 15. And this episode, you just feel seen, right? You feel seen. You're like, I'm gonna power through, and being able to, and her willingness to sacrifice herself for her crew is it is a very mother trope thing to do, and also very much part of who she is. And I just think that she what was I saying? Oh yes, the instinct of protecting others first. Like that's her instinct as a captain, and that's kind of I think that's a captain's instinct across Star Trek. Like that's, you know, any series is they're there to protect their crew. They did not make it to captain without showing a willingness to either sacrifice themselves, you know, or know what had to be. Like it's like I think of when Deanna took the officer test, that they didn't pass her until she realized that she had to sacrifice a member of the crew in order to save everybody else.
Yep.
So she's like they're saving the ship, you know, she's saving the ship and the crew, and she's also taking care of the alien race that was getting the stuff dumped on them, and they were suffering. So she was the protective instinct and the sense of justice, you know, and helping. And I like when she's like, you know, time to take out the garbage.
Yeah.
That's such a great line. It's one of my favorites. It's time to, it's a GIF that I like to use a lot.
Nice. Hawk?
It's a great, like, kind of bookend for it, right? Because she was very much focused on what the decision she made regarding the Ocampa. She saved the Ocampa and that, but plunged everybody into this, you know, that's hell. You know, literally they're in a void right now because of it and that. And like a similar decision is thrust upon her shoulders, and that she can save like these people whose home is being irradiated with, you know, another culture's garbage. Or, you know, she could do nothing and just accept help from the, you know, the garbage man, and then get the crew out, get them through the
garbage man.
Yeah. Can't remember his name, so I just call him the.
I don't even remember.
I don't either. I just watched the episode again.
Is that the Malon, the Marlon, the Marlon? Malon.
Malon.
You were close. The first one was closest.
Thank you. But yeah. Again, she puts it all on her shoulders, and then, you know, she forgets that, you know, yes, she is the captain and that, but they are a crew. They're all Starfleet. They all knew the risks when they signed up, you know, and this was part of it. And that, and if they were going to be, you know, Starfleet, if they're, you know, going to live up to the ideals that they trained for, signed up for, and that, then it's like risk falls on everybody. This could have happened to any crew. It wasn't all on her. Of course she wanted to, would have wanted to do this on her own and that, but her crew knew better. They wouldn't let her.
Yeah. Great answer, Hawk. Again, you're on point tonight, my friend.
Yeah.
Giraffe.
I mean, everything that they said is really good. I wanted to talk about the unseen aliens, like these guys who lives in the dark. And I like that it's not actually a void. It comes to them as a void, but it's not a void. And that she manages to have compassion and empathies for these unseen creatures. And that she's ready to sacrifice herself for basically a bunch of aliens that she never met. And I think it again, like there's power in deciding to be the one that will right or wrong. And that's very Janeway. And I'm glad that she doesn't have to die for that, but she still decides to put a notch, in her voyage, in her
and her Voyager belt.
Yeah, no, but like it's a parallel with what happened with the Ocampa. She chooses to save the oppressed. She chooses to save the little guy at the expense of her crew because that's what they're here to do, and that's their mission, and that's what Starfleet stands for, and that's what she stands for. And that if you have to stop on the highway to help somebody, to put on a new tire, well, you're doing something good. And sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's saving a whole civilization from radiation in a void. and that's what defines who you are at the end of the day. And I think that it's a beautiful parallel that she's questioning what she did for the Ocampa, and she ends up basically repeating the same gesture because that's what she does.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It didn't help that she came up with a solution and that, and the guy basically rejected it because it would have put him out of a job.
Yeah.
Hey, we never heard that before.
Nope.
Huh?
Tara brings up a great point. That's why she was so angry at Captain Ransom and Equinox, which I kind of regret not putting on this list, but we would have been here forever.
Oh, it's not on the list.
Not on the
I
list.
think we're gonna be here forever.
We're gonna be here forever anyway. He did the opposite of Save the Little Guy. He exploited them, right? And it's like the exact opposite of what Janeway always does. It's a great point. We're gonna keep moving on. It's funny how many of these episodes actually come from season 5, which I think many consider to be the best. Yeah, exactly, like the best season of the show. We're talking Duncan Frontier. It's my favorite coffee joint. Dark Frontier. It's Janeway first, the returning Borg Queen, played by Susanna Thompson in this episode, who did a fantastic fucking job. We're going to try and be short on this just because we highlighted this in our 30 Years of Voyager episode. And again, we did 2 Best of the Borg episodes. If you want more on this, go there. But just a few quick discussion points. Like this is, I think, also like Janeway is just taking more risks because it's been 5 years, right? And she wants to try and get away home. And the Borg have transwarp coils, and they know how to put them into Voyager now. So what does she do? She says, we're going to attack the Borg. She takes that risk to go on the offensive against the fucking Borg. What do we think about this decision in season 5, Amy?
I love this two-parter. Yeah. And this is where the quote comes from. You got it. 3 things. Keep your shirt tucked in, go down with the ship, and never abandon a member of your crew. And I think there's also great interactions in this episode between Susanna Thompson and Jerry Ryan. They're very good. Just wanted to, I know we're talking about Janeway, but shout that out because it was a very strong episode and, entirely on the backs of 3 badass ladies. Whoop, whoop.
Hell yeah.
And Naomi Wildman, who does a very good job for such a little girl. Like, she does a good job. I always enjoyed episodes where she was there.
Same.
But I think Janeway being like, we're going to attack them, right? Like it's giving the same, when they decide to go and they steal a Cylon, they capture a Cylon Raider.
Yeah.
On Battlestar. Yeah. And I think that, Ron Moore, he departed by at this
I
point.
believe he was departed by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had departed by this point, but I think that they did a very good job with this episode and showing well, I think we had seen the Borg as vulnerable finally.
Yeah,
with
because of A4. Yep,
8472.
exactly.
And I think we thought, even you have to get, audience buy-in essentially to be like, they're gonna do what? So they had the audience buy-in because they had shown the Borg vulnerable for the first time on Voyager, and that was very cool. And then seeing how the Borg Queen kind of has changed a little bit from the last time that we saw her. And this is stellar all the way around. And going after the Borg and being like, we're basically going to do a heist.
Yep.
Like, we love a heist.
Love it. Hawk?
I mean, like, this was a great showcase for that side of Janeway and that, the hunter. Yeah. We know she's a scientist, she's a great captain and that, but like, when it comes down to tactics and warfare, there's very few in Starfleet that match her on that. Yeah, she'd already exposed that, like, previously, that the Borg do have weaknesses, that they are not invulnerable, and she rides that. And given that this episode focused a lot on, like, or this kind of season focused a lot on, like, how do we get forward, and realizing that they had an opportunity with the Borg finding a damaged spear that they could steal the
Transwarp coil.
the transwarp coil from. Yeah, it brings out that, I don't want to say adventurous, but I mean the side of her, as I said, the closest word I can come up with is a hunter.
It
like
is
that
yeah.
that tactic where she like airdropping a photon torpedo right inside the ship.
Yep.
Like, how didn't somebody else come up with that before?
Yeah. 100%. Giraffe?
Yeah, I think it's again a very good episode to watch. Your list is good, great list, but I think it all starts because the Borg say resistance is futile, and resistance is never futile, and she wants to prove that, resisting to the dehumanization, to I can't. I'm tired. I'm sorry, but to pressure and somebody who tells you that you can't be. And I think that, yeah, it's a heist, and yeah, it's a it's like throwing dice and being, yeah, okay, we're gonna do something crazy, but it's also an important gesture. It's showing the crew that no, we are not bending to that, and we may all die.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, imagine
doing this.
imagine if Janeway did bend to the Borg, basically, right? Like, and tried to avoid them as much as possible. They'd probably still be in the Delta Quadrant, right? Like,
well, she does it in species
Scorpion.
8472.
Well, she works with them, and yeah, she does back off a little bit, but
and she
learns from her mistake, right?
Yeah. But I think it just, again, like reaffirming that she has morals, and that's her guiding principle. And also, if she can get some transwarp out of it,
yeah,
why the fuck not?
Right.
Moral high
Why
ground and
not?
technology. Let's go.
Right. I just want to go back to what Hawk was saying too, because like I feel like this episode works with her kind of going after the Borg, because it's not too far removed from, I mean, it is, it's like, I think mid-season. So no, it really isn't that too far removed from Night, right? Where she's dealing with the decision to strand them in a Delta Quadrant. She's like, well, okay, I've dealt with that mental trauma. It's still affecting me, but I'm going to find every last possible way to get this crew home. And if that means that I have to attack the Borg, then I'm going to fucking do it. And I love that so much. I'm just going to, I kind of skip some stuff here and just turn this into one question, and we'll move on to the next episode. This episode really focuses too on the Janeway and 7 of 9 relationship, right? And her mentorship and her, almost like her stewardship of 7 of 9. And this, I don't think that Janeway ever thinks it's a betrayal, because I know that she knows like the Borg Queen is involved, but like, that possibility of losing her, and she, again, we keep talking about this, not leaving anyone behind. Like we keep doing the quote, to go basically go face to face with the Borg Queen to get 7 of 9 back. It's just a really epic moment, an epic episode. What did you think about this episode also being kind of a focal point in 7 and Janeway's relationship, Amy?
A lot of fans also talk to Kate about this episode because they say it feels like they were mentoring her, like they're talking to her, or she's talking to them. Sorry, It is 11:15 here
It's
on
late.
the East
Yep.
Coast. So yes, and I think that relationship was very well. They had gotten into their groove by that point. That was like the good point for them, where they wanted to show the viewers that 7 is not the same. She's grown and changed because of her affiliation with Janeway, with this crew. It does kind of come back in Picard, when she talks a little bit about being mentored and like eventually figuring out that Starfleet isn't for her, which I think is totally natural outgrowth for that character. But then she comes back and she's captain. So, but I think
takes a while.
You
It
have
takes
to
a
have
while.
that moment. I
Yeah.
think she had to have that moment to step away and be her
Yeah.
own person see who she was without Starfleet.
Yeah.
Because if you view 7 as kind of like and I talked about this, born sexy yesterday, as that trope when she first gets there, she is very she knows what she knows Starfleet, she knows the Federation, she's got the knowledge in her head, but she doesn't have the experience. She has not experienced living with this crew, living with a mentor like Janeway to change her and who she is. So I think that's the core of this episode for sure, was their scenes together. And also, like you said, just the way that Janeway shows up for her people. She
Always.
shows up always for her people, and she's not going to leave anybody, and she's not going to leave 7.
Yeah. Yep. Hawk?
There's such a great contrast in this episode between like Janeway and the Borg Queen, because they both share a line together. Perhaps I pushed you into this too soon. They both end up saying the same thing to 7 and 9.
I never realized that.
Yeah. But it's such a great character moment. It's like a lot of this episode is about 7 and 9, her journey, and that going through the old Hanson diaries and that, like learning, and like. Wait,
yes, that is where she quotes them, isn't it?
Yeah. When Janeway says it to her after she, pushed her to read the diaries and that, and it's like it brought up so much, everything for 7 at that point, and that, because she had massive trust issues in regards to the parents and that, because basically like they put her into an insanely dangerous situation and that, and it ended awfully for her and for them. Janeway, she feels, is like the first authority figure I think she actually feels she could trust, rather than, in comparison to the Borg Queen, who she feared. And yeah, that level of trust that ends up paying off, and that, like, there was a moment I was like, why didn't she tell Janeway about the communications that were going on from the Borg Queen
Right.
at the time, right?
Yeah.
But then you realize that she did it because, like, she knew that the rest of the crew was in jeopardy if she did.
Mhm.
She insisted on getting on that mission and that, but if she had actually told Janeway, the Borg Queen would have known as soon as she got onto that ship. The Borg Queen was in her head, and that, and if she knew, if Janeway knew, it would compromise her. Like, I thought, like, if Janeway knew, she could maybe maneuver and, like, do some, like,
But it's also the Borg Queen.
it's also the Borg
Yeah.
Queen and that, and
Yeah.
she has instant access to everything that 7 thinks at that point. And so she made the right decision in that. And again, it was basically, it was a leap of faith, she didn't know Janeway would come back for her, but I think kind of deep down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nice. Draft?
Everybody was great. I agree with everything they said.
I like that answer.
Yay!
We're gonna try and breeze through our last 3 segments here. I I unintentionally skipped Counterpoint because it's actually one of the episodes I was most looking forward to talking about tonight. So let's talk Counterpoint briefly. The Spy Who Loved Me. I had to put the James Bond reference in there.
That's just great.
Right?
I know that would be very beloved by the Admiral.
The Devourer, the Telepath, super charming enemy, and Kashyyyk. Gonna try and again combine a couple of questions here. Janeway is like the absolute chess master in this episode, right? She plays the long game and she ends up winning at the end, which is just like the biggest fuck you moment, one of the biggest fuck you moments in Voyager, which I really love. And it's backed by just like this amazing performance from Kate Mulgrew, and I don't have the actor's name on me, but the guy who
Mark
plays
Herlick.
Thank you. He is amazing as Kashyyyk, right? Because there's intellect, charm, just and deceit from both of them. It's so good. Amy, what did you think about Janeway as this chess master and these performances?
Well, first I'd like to say, if you're ever at a convention and you ask Kate what her favorite episode is, this is usually one that comes up. It is among her favorite. And I think just because she got to do so many cool things, like, in this episode, and also, like you said, the charming, you double crossed me. Oh no, I have double crossed you.
Yeah.
And it also gave her opportunity to play off, a guest actor. A lot of the times Janeway would kind of you'd have like guest actor moments, especially if it was a romantic guest actor for like, one of the guys, or, somebody else kind of like stepping in. Like this one really gave her a chance to show off a different skill set. How about that? That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, for sure. Huck.
I'm glad we're talking about this episode because her long game with him was fantastic, because of course she's not going to fall in love with this guy for real. And that, he's basically a Nazi. He's
like basically a Nazi. Yeah, he is. He is. Yeah, for 100%.
And she is she's going out of her way to help people who are being oppressed. It's a very dangerous game. Random searches all through this system that they're going through. But the long game, he tried to play her, and she saw it coming from a mile away, and she used it to her advantage. And so much so that like it was all wrapped up so tightly at the end, and that because like, yes, she did help them get away, but there was a good chance like the Devourer could have just like destroyed Voyager at that point. But no, she knew that this guy's reputation was on the line, and it was best to just keep it secret. So kudos to her for like the four-dimensional chess.
Yeah, 100%. Giraffe.
Yeah, I like that it's yet again the same kind of plot. Like she's here to protect the people that nobody wants to protect, right? But also this time it's not by throwing herself with a ship at somebody, but with deception, with lies. And I like the fact that the end justifies the mean, and deception can be a good way to get justice. And I like that it's all about playing on the idea of trust. Who trusts who is actually trying to deceive who. And I like that she still has the moral high ground, and it's all about her trying to protect people. And sometimes, lie. If the law is unlawful, then, don't admit to the law.
This episode, I'm trying not to talk about it so you guys get it all out. But I love this. And Giraffe, you're talking about like who trusts who. It's so good because if you've watched this episode multiple times, you find new things. And the last time that I watched it, which was I think yesterday, I was just like, oh man, it's so easy to tell now. Neither one of them ever trusted each other, right? No. Like, no, it's just so obvious, but played so well. Tara talks about the really hot kiss in this episode, and we're gonna talk about that kiss and twist ending, right? One of, I think, Janeway's just like boldest command moments, right? Because I love this scene so much because she just sits, and usually where Chakotay sits, by the way, that was a very pointed move by Kashyyyk to basically be like, No, you sit in his seat. She sits there with the smuggest look on her face, just watching him fold and break, and just doesn't show him an ounce of emotion as she completely destroys and beats him at his own game. I love this ending, this moment. Amy, what about you?
I like this ending. It's also just like a very I have not actually watched this episode in quite a while. I rewatched Counterpoint just now on my notes. Because I of course I remember it. Of
Yeah,
course,
of course.
I've heard it talked about over and over again. But I feel like I haven't internalized the feeling of like watching that, like you were saying, like that really good feeling you were having about watching what a badass look was on her. Like I like to rewatch and re-notice those things. And I don't think I've watched this particular episode in quite some time. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Yeah, definitely rewatch it.
Yeah.
It's such a good
But
one.
I what else can I say? Good kiss. Good
Yeah,
job.
good job. Good kiss.
Everybody is sexy in this episode. Hooray.
Good guys win. Hawk, what about you?
Oh, it was amazing comeuppance. It's like, from the outset of the episode, remember him like putting music on and that, and sitting in her chair in the office, and that, to make the experience more pleasant, and that, he'd always been very smug with the authority he was ruling over her, and that throughout the episode. In the fact that she, at the end, her shit-eating grin was just fantastic.
And barely a shit-eating grin, though, right? Like,
Just
maybe
the
the
barest,
hint of one, like, yeah. Giraffe.
Go explain this to your boss.
Right?
For me, it has like a little bit of a hint of like the Enterprise incident where you're like,
Yeah.
who is like lying to who here? Like, is anybody actually trusting the process? But the fact that makes Counterpoint even better is that Kashyyyk is an asshole. Fuck that guy. Like literally, in the Enterprise incidents, it's not like you're like, ooh, I'm pretty sure the Enterprise is like doing something wrong here.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, there's like something delightful about like seeing her plan like unfold and be like, oh, she actually fucked him over. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a great episode to see all the arsenal that Janeway has, and it's not only photon torpedoes.
Great word for yeah. Oh, love that. Love that.
Guile. That is the word.
Yes. Let's move on to Fairhaven and deleting the wife in a place
And if
for
Tara,
everyone.
are you still? Is Tara?
Tara is here. Tara is here.
Tara, we have to tell you, I have delete the wife bracelet that you gave me that I was wearing. Yep, I just took them off because I was writing with my right hand. This one says coffee black.
Yeah, Amy and I are sharing our coffee black bracelets that you gave us.
Yes, deleting the wife.
Deleting
I also
the
have
wife.
Weird as part of the job from the Duraz Sisters podcast. So good job to them.
Shout out to
I
Ashley
have
and
the
Brianna.
beak on a drake.
Oh yeah, the beak. Oh my god, from Lower Decks.
Amazing.
From Prodigy.
No, beak on a drake. Look, it is Prodigy a drake. I was the other
Prodigy.
bird people in Lower Decks. Sorry, I mixed them up. I feel bad now. This is listen, at the end of the day, this is a holodeck episode, but it deserves like a lot of love. It's a super humanizing episode, right? It gives the crew a home away from home, which they are in desperate need of. 6 years into the Delta Quadrant, Tom does a great job with the program. And something we also learned, like Catherine Janeway absolutely needs this place too, right? Like they all need it. What did we think about Fairhaven? And not even Michael Sullivan yet, but just the smile she has that first time that she walks into Sullivan's bar and just sees the arm wrestling and the camaraderie and just like everybody being able to let loose. Like I feel like she's letting loose for the first time in a while too. Amy, what do you think about this?
This episode is just I really love holodeck episodes. I think that's because I started watching Trek when I was like 7, and that's like just a fun thing. So Fairhaven, oh my god, just the whole sequence of her modifying him in the holodeck is just one of my favorite. It's like, because he's not really there. Yes, the actor is standing there,
Right.
which makes it funnier because I'm sure that they had a blast filming that and probably just kept cracking up and like couldn't get through it. That's one of those ones I imagine went in a very funny direction. So I think that this is a good escape for everybody, and like you said, a very like necessary escape for the captain as well, who is not like allowing herself to have certain kinds of relationships with the crew. And also, like, I was thinking when you said earlier about the Chakotay thing in the bathtub and her resisting it, that she just had to break things off, with her fiance, and she is not able to fraternize with the crew, given that she must set a good example. So yeah, a little holodeck time might be just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
Dicey Giraffe being like, yes. And
Yeah.
plus, they're
I have so many
look at
opinions,
this
but I'm waiting for my
uncomplicated
third.
look at this uncomplicated man that you can turn off at the end of the day. Like, sounds good.
Nice.
Listen.
Hawk.
It's a really good, like, low stakes holodeck episode, and it's a great contrast between like two ones from TNG, obviously. The Moriarty episode
Moriarty, yeah.
and the what's his face? Dwight Schultz.
We just posted a short about it. Give me a second. Keep going.
But yeah, it's great to to see, like with Barkley,
Hollow Pursuits.
with Barkley, like his were just really empty fantasies and just shells and that. But like when she gets to tailoring, she starts tailoring it personality wise and that, and something like someone who could match her, which is why I threw in the comparison between like to this and Moriarty being
I would
creative.
love to be able to install a knowledge of like literature and all sorts of things into somebody. Like, that would be great.
Well, this is great. We can just skip this question because everybody's talking about it. I love it. I love that, like, we'd all just like program our perfect hologram daddy or whatever.
Yeah,
And I love that she didn't
1000%.
change his look that much in that. She just 3 centimeters higher. That's about it.
2 days
You're
of
gonna
5
make me- are you
o'clock
gonna-
shadow.
Are you
Yeah.
gonna make me decide between Desmond from Lost and Noah Wiley? Like it's gonna be very difficult.
Several programs.
They're all
Several
programs.
programs.
Several
Girl
programs.
has time.
A girl.
and by the way, Michael Sullivan, I thought he looked familiar to me. The actor's name was Fintan McEwen, and I recognized him from Game of Thrones season 2.
Oh, okay.
He's in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, second season, he plays Amory Lorch. Didn't have a lot to do in that. He got yelled at by Tywin in that because he couldn't read very well, and then Jake and Nagar killed him with a wolfsbane dart.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, Giraffe.
Okay, I always found that the idea of Fairhaven was like insanely lame because I'm like, first of all, that's like how Americans see Europe, and I thought that it was not supposed to be America. Like, they're supposed to be a federation and stuff, and that's so American coded to me.
I
that,
don't know. Have you been to Ireland? I know you've been to Ireland, but have you been to Ireland?
dude. It's like the fact that Americans always imagine that like Europe is the fucking Middle Ages. It's like everybody is living in the 20s, or like, oh, they're eating something, my cow, and like, I'm gonna come with my flowers. I'm like, what the actual fuck? Like, and that's already way, way old for them. The thing is that would have been funny is that them having an Irish program of like the 90s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, already like 300 years for them back. But Star Trek never has like that kind of like, like remembering that they're supposed to be in the future and that our present is already a really old past. And that would have been way more hilarious. I'm just like tired of seeing like every time it's Europe, it's always like the 1800s for some fucking
Okay,
reason.
that's fair.
Because
Yeah,
people
yeah.
want to wear a period dress. That's what they want.
Well, when she was having like her Jane Eyre fantasy, I was like, yeah, girl. Be the girl in the attic. I don't know, like.
Oh yes, the
Me.
wife in the attic. Yeah.
But and it's, I mean, I fucking hate Up the Long Ladder. Also, like, it's
I
always
wasn't even gonna mention the name because Matt mentioned it. I was like,
like it's just like it's kind of ridiculous. It kind of like takes me out. Also, it's the Little Europe plot on Universal, which you see in literally every single fucking recreation of Europe from the American mind. So it always took me out as kind of like, why the fuck would like Tom Paris, the creator of Captain Proton, do something like Fair Heaven? For me, the thing that is interesting in the episode is the question of how sentient are these beings, and how fucking unhinged it is to actually create like images of people, and they don't exist for real, right? But then the possibility of doing whatever you want on the holodecks, and they do Ireland in 1800. Get the fuck out of here. Give me like Crisis Point. Like,
I'd
see,
love to
Boimler,
live in Fairhaven, man.
he
I
has
don't
a
know.
vision. The man has a vision. I'm like, I just felt that, you know, the craving for like the rural life, the rural simple life, you know, where women were fucking mistreated, couldn't vote, had no rights over their body, and all of them are like that idealization of the past always fucking makes me angry. That past was not cool, y'all. Like, it was fucking
was not
terrible for
cool.
most people. And I'm just like, okay, I know it's for fun, but also, really, that's all you get? You can do whatever the fuck you want. Data goes
In a
like,
holodeck.
you know, like go be Sherlock Holmes, like Boimler does Captain Bucephal's
Twain.
Dagger, like, and I mean, Fair Heaven is such a lack of imagination. And also a weird fucking fetishism of a past that was not a good past.
Yeah.
These guys, I'm here for Captain Proton. I think it's the best. The Bride of Counterpoint is the best holodeck episode of Voyager.
All time.
And I will
All
die on
time.
that
Shameless
hill. That is
plug.
not an
Go
Irish
on
hill.
YouTube and watch our table read of Bride of Chaotica. Go and do that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I'm gonna see that.
It's been ages since we've done a
Ages.
table read.
Yep. I guess fuck me then, because I love Fairhaven, and I would love to
Because
live
you
in
grew up-
Fairhaven.
You grew up in these like
No, but
rural
dude,
life
I don't
with the
know.
cows
I went and
it's so
visited. I
good.
went and visited my brother in Ireland in 2004. And a lot of stuff in Fairhaven like happened to me when I was in Ireland, like drunken idiots. I almost got a dart in my ass. Like, I don't know. I like it. I'd love to live there.
Also, a country that didn't have right to abortion until literally
Okay, well, yes,
yesterday.
that's fucked. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I will
Everybody
say that it
adds-
is good to talk about an episode based in Ireland when talking about Kate and Janeway.
Yes. Everybody already answered the Michael Sullivan question that we were going to ask, so I will just avoid that one because all y'all are dirty pervs, including me. I would do it too. But Janeway goes through all of this with Michael, like creates the perfect man who snores and climbs up trees and declares his love. And still, despite everything, decides to keep her shields up, right? No Chakotay, no Michael Sullivan. She needs to be the captain, but she does keep the program active and doesn't delete it. So that maybe says a little bit something. What do we think about Janeway's decision at the end to still yet again not pursue a relationship, relationship or not, Amy?
In my opinion, I don't see the problem with it.
With having the relationship or walking away from it? Yeah, I don't
With
either.
her having the
No,
relationship.
I don't either.
I think she's being a little hard on herself.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, just, you know, yes, I understand, of course, where they were going with that. And it was a silly one-off episode and they wanted to keep it to a silly one-off episode. But yeah, I say why not? I am yes, do what you want, girl, but also relax a little. Just
I
a
agree.
little.
I completely agree. What about you, Hawk?
She should have definitely kept it going, but I don't know. Maybe her ethics kind of started to kick in a bit, you know, unlike a lot of people.
Maybe she was like, this is weird.
Well, the fact that like she increased the intelligence so much that like, you know, he really did seem to fall in love with her in that. And it seemed to be like, you know, the fact that like, you know, she was keeping a distance and that was putting him through agony. And think part of her realizing, yeah, this is not tech you really should be playing with. It's like he may not be real, but I mean, the emotions seem to be very real to him. So, but I did like
Interesting.
that she keeps it basically keeps it in the back pocket for, just such an occasion.
Yeah, the occasion. Go ahead, Giraffe.
We've all watched The Orville, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
literally thought of that because
Okay, so
Jay and I
let's
are
be
like,
really
no.
honest. Like, if we had like a shared program where everybody would go like to like do whatever the fuck it is that they do in Fair Heaven, I would not be the freak that I am. Like, I'd be very nice. I'd be maybe flirting with the bartender, but that's all. I'd have my own private program. to do
Apparently,
whatever.
passwords don't exist in the 24th century.
Because everybody respects each other. They don't even do copies of like wrong. Tuvok does a copy of Nelix to
Kill
strangle
him.
over and over again, which I support. I think this is good for your mental health. But
Oh
I
man.
mean, I know that the girl has, yes, she has the Leonardo da Vinci whatever
Oh,
she's doing over there.
yeah.
But she has her own private program. Like, imagine how good it is, like, to be able to do the thing. But I totally understand also that, okay, it's getting too weird. You know, when you go from fanfic to fanfic, and then you end up on something, and you're like, this is too weird even for me. I'm gonna scale back. And I feel that this is totally what would happen on the holodeck. Like, let me try that
Man.
program I got at Quarks, and then you're like, nah, this is crazy even for me. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty
Nice.
sure there's somebody. Think of the lower deckers cleaning the.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Our final segment of the night, our final episode or episodes to talk about is our Prodigy Spotlight, which is Janeway reimagined, and we're gonna very, very quickly talk about Supernova Part 2, which is the finale of season 1, and that whole theme of sacrifice and mentorship comes full circle in this finale. Mentoring Doll and the crew and Rock Talk. Just as she did on Voyager, except here she does make the ultimate sacrifice and flies the protostar into making the wormhole that is the whole focus of season 2. She makes that sacrifice, hologram or not. What did we think about this, Amy?
I cried. I'm like sitting there like crying during this Nickelodeon Prodigy show, which I love Prodigy. I
We
think
all love it here.
I
Yeah.
know we all love it. I know I don't have to say it, but I think, obviously the Hagermans did a fantastic job. Aaron Walke, everybody who worked on it did a wonderful job, and it has so much heart. And this like final moment where she's talking to them and they're all kind of gathered over her like little message. And it's just such it's a simple message that kids can understand, that we can understand as adults, because people still need the lessons to be handed to them, especially with a lot of TV. And it's just, it really speaks to her, the way that they like wrote her program, right? Because it's what she would do.
It totally is what she would do. Yeah, well said. Hawk?
I love that she returned for this series. It was a perfect way of bringing her and Janeway character back to Trek. I'm sorry, these were the ones I didn't get to rewatch in that this week, so I was having a little trouble remember the details, but I do remember, the sacrifice at the end. Also, this pointed out, like, I think like Amy pointed out that she's much better with kids than Picard.
Oh my God.
Could have ever been that. And I do remember that one point in the series where she kind of was like, "I know you're not really Starfleet cadets." And she's like, but it's about dealing with the situation you're dealt. And AI Janeway did a great job mentoring them all through it. It was that theme of Voyager as a family, brought over to Prodigy, and that extended around to this new crew. How could she be, anything other than Janeway, even a holographic version of her?
Yeah. Draft?
I like how you make me talk about being a creep on the holodeck and then about mentoring kids, like in literally like the same minute.
Kind of works perfectly, right?
We're multifaceted creatures, Giraffe.
I cried so bad. Me too at that episode. I think it was it was a very, very good arc for and Janeway, the Admiral, and Janeway, the holodeck program. And if you watch back the first reviews we've done on Prodigy, I said something like, I don't cry when I watch like cartoons and stuff like this because I don't really associate to the characters. I cried a lot at the end of Supernova. Because I feel that also as fans, we cannot not associate Voyager to the voice of Kate Mulgrew, and it would have been voiced by somebody else, which impossible, but it wouldn't have hit the same.
Never.
And fun fact, I didn't know her voice until like I literally moved to the US and watched Voyager in English because I watched everything.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
that's right.
And the first time I actually heard the voice of Kate Mulgrew in English was an Orange is the New Black, and I didn't know
Red.
that I didn't know that was Captain Janeway because I didn't recognize the voice.
Yeah. Well, she
And
worked with
then
a
I watched
dialect.
and then I watched Voyager and I was like, wait a minute. So yeah.
Love that. You said you worked with a dialect coach to do the
You worked
Russian.
with a dialect coach to do the
yeah,
Russian.
yeah.
So I think I think that's a big credit to the work that she put into Red and the accent that you didn't recognize that it was Janeway.
Well,
Yeah.
I also had never heard her actual voice because I watched Voyager in French until I moved to the
French,
US and I
Still,
rewatched it in English.
Oh, interesting.
Wild.
Yeah.
I also just want to give a very quick shout out whenever we can because it's important to Nami Malumad, who did the score for Prodigy.
I love
and
Nami.
Janeway's sacrifice without Nami's score for Prodigy just also would not have hit the same. It's like the perfect combination of like everything Kate does with Nami's just like genius with, music. It was the perfect moment. And I mean, yes, we all cried. I cried my fucking eyes out. It was
I
brutal.
did. I really
She's
did.
good at writing music for like saying goodbyes.
Yeah,
because
right.
In the Elysian Kingdom, when
Oh
he
my
says bye to his daughter, with the music, and I cried.
I was
If you
crying
don't cry
so
during
much in that
Elysian Kingdom, you have a
episode.
black heart.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Let's talk about Action Janeway, Tank Top Janeway, and the Devourer of All Things Part 2, which is the mid-season finale of Prodigy Season 2. So much shades of Captain Janeway, right? Protecting the mission, protecting the kids, protecting her family. Once again, she's on board Voyager, but she takes matters into her own hands like she likes to do. She flies this shuttle down. She blasts quantum torpedoes into the what were they called again? The loom or the
loom.
The loom.
the
yeah.
loom. And all while in the badass tank top look that has just become like a fashion icon, right? What did we think about Devourer of All Things Part 2 in this moment, Amy?
I mean, they just had an incredible season. Like that the second season was so good. And it's so true. It's not just true to Janeway, it's true to Voyager. Like it's true to the things about the show, including bringing in other characters. But also to like the stuff that makes Janeway. And the one of the episodes that was not on this list was Macrovirus, and that is one of my very favorite Janeway episodes, of course. And yes, you don't get that interaction that she has normally, but she's just like, we're gonna save the ship. We're gonna get rid of these things. Get the hell off my ship. This is gross. We're gonna deal with it.
Take the cheese to the sick bay.
Take the cheese
Yes.
and give the Neelix cheese. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh yes, it was, and you just have to imagine like how scary it is that she came back to her ship infected, and her like that is always like a good horror episode, Macrovirus.
Yeah.
And then the echo of that in Prodigy, where you think like, oh my God, all of these things, everything's kind of happening at once. And they also cram it into, and I know it's a two-parter, but they cram it into like a very short amount of
They
time
do.
to tell a lot
It's
of
still only like
story.
what, like 45 minutes
Yeah.
max is a two-parter? Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of impressive things happening at different levels of that episode that are very hard to achieve.
Yeah.
Like writers, production, animation, like everything, just
All of
very good.
Yeah, they did such a good job animating her that scene too, like giving her like all of like Kate's facial expressions too. Like it's just like So again, I don't think they
You can
did.
tell they studied it. You can
Yeah,
tell they
100%,
studied
because they
the way
didn't have
she-
that money for like mocap or any of that,
No,
right? Like
no, this
that's just
was
like
all-
fucking animation. It's so good.
And they all recorded their lines in different places
Yeah.
at different times, and
Yeah.
and it's just it was great. And I'm really hoping, you know, that Netflix picks up season 3, does the right thing.
Let's do it. Yes, let's go Netflix. Waiting on you guys. Hawk, Devourer of All Things.
Yeah, this was a great arc all around for, you know, Janeway, you know, because we got to know her in season 1 as the AI hologram Janeway and that, and then we get to meet the real Janeway and that Admiral and Starfleet and that. It's like how she was, you know, coping with pressures, how she was coping with being under command again, right?
Fucking
and
Jellicoe.
Jellicoe, no less, it was and this was her. Yeah, this was her.
Doing his
Like
job.
exactly.
True.
She was doing his job, yes, but at this point, yeah, at this moment, this was, you know, the Janeway from the Delta Quadrant, and that she was back. I would say
100%.
Yeah, I don't know what else to add.
She was a badass. That's all we need to
She
know,
was
right?
badass,
Yeah.
tank
That's all
top,
we
shooting,
need.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
Get away from my kids.
My
Yeah,
teeny tiny
such a good
phaser
line.
Rifle.
Uh-oh.
Look, teeny tiny phaser
Ah,
rifle.
that's awesome.
Nice.
Pew, pew, pew,
Nice.
pew.
Giraffe.
What's a phaser rifle? It's just a phaser that you hold with 2 hands. I mean, you said everything great. It's a great episode, but also I will say that we're like 60 years into the making of Star Trek, and we finally get people who make Star Trek who grew up with Star Trek. And if you give me a show and you tell me there's Janeway, I'm like, we're getting tank top Janeway, okay? Like, I don't care how we get there, but this is happening. And I'm like, see, these are people who know the real value of this franchise. And I think we see that in Star Wars also now. With
Oh,
people who have, like,
100%.
Mhm.
deep knowledge, and not only knowledge, but deep love as the fan of growing up and like bringing themselves towards the value of that these franchises are like promoting. And I think that animation in Star Trek has done a fantastic job of making a new era of Star Trek that is centered around the values and the imagery we grew up with. And it's not nostalgia, it's picking up the things that will continue to transmit the same energy and the same values towards like the new people that will watch the show. And I think that's great.
Great answer.
Thank you.
Also, Star Wars fans, it would be nice if, you know, you remembered that this is something that you loved as well.
Yeah, for real.
And I have no problem throwing that shade at y'all.
I will join you in that shade.
Yeah, unfortunately,
so
I have
many
to join you
issues
in
with the
that.
Star
So
Wars
I hate
fandom.
I'm such a massive Star Wars fan, and I hate being a part of the fandom.
The fandom sucks.
Yeah, it does. Let's wrap this up, guys, and talk about
Yes.
some final why Janeway matters here. We'll go in the opposite order this time. Giraffe, what's your definitive Janeway moment?
Ooh. I don't know.
It's hard.
It's
My
really
definitive,
hard.
Like the 1-1.
1-1. Give me a 1-1. First thing that comes to your head.
I was gonna say Bride of Chaotica. Is like
I love
it's the ability to find joy and fun in something that is not your thing, because it's also something that your people find joy in. And I think it's a great she's still badass, she's still incredible, she also look gorgeous, but also she definitely doesn't want to do that thing.
Definitely not. No.
And I love that.
Great answer. Hawk.
Oh, possibly when she negotiated with the Borg way back when the species
A472.
A472 was basically destroying them, and she said, "We're going to compromise. You're going to provide us with the way, you know, out of the space, and that you're not going to attack us. We're going to have a truce." And basically, she set all the terms, and the Borg had no other option but to comply.
Yep. Great answer. Amy.
This is a very hard one for
It
me.
is. I know.
Definitive Janeway moment.
The
Well,
first one that pops into your head.
The first one that pops into my head is probably Macrovirus.
Love it.
The way she's like that thing at the end where she's standing with her hands on her hips and the guy, it's an offensive gesture, but she still does it again because that's just how she is. She's like talking to him and she's like, "Yep, bye."
Love it.
No, but also one episode that we did not mention at all that I think is a great Janeway moment is Sacred Ground.
Oh yeah.
Which one is
That is
Sacred
a
Ground
very
again?
It is a very early on episode. She has to be able to Kes is injured and she has to go through this ritual on this planet
Oh, I
to
don't remember.
she has to reach her arm into a bag with like something that's clearly like snakes or venomous, and she gets like stung and she hallucinates because that's part of the journey, and then she has
It's
to
about
walk.
science and faith.
Yeah,
and how you
science
can
and
still,
faith.
like have faith, but be scientific about it. And
Mhm.
sometimes you need
And she
to,
can't
yeah.
walk in with any doubt. She cannot walk
Oh.
through the thing with any doubt. She has to carry Kes through, and it has no doubt that Kes will be healed by this.
It's about,
Rewatch
like-
Sacred Ground.
Yeah,
And that,
see?
it's about faith is basically about trust and not necessarily proof, which is super
Yeah.
hard for a scientist.
For
It's a
hard,
good
yeah.
episode,
And
yeah.
Robbie Duncan McNeil directed that episode.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
nice.
did.
Nice.
So
Thank
that
you,
is a very
Tom.
good. It is not my definitive Janeway moment, but it is up there. And also up there is when she tells the fake, not her dad, to go back to hell.
Such a good episode.
Go back to hell.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that comes to mind. That episode comes to mind because I like could not watch that episode as a kid without like crying my little face off because I was like, Janeway can't die. But yeah, it was
Nice.
that. But when she tells him to go back to hell, that's
Love it. Admiral Janeway from The Bad Future.
Oh,
If you don't do this, 7 of 9 won't survive and you'll lose this many crew members. That decision to, get them home no matter the cost, which she ends up doing, and then finally ending with, what's wrong? Something you assimilated? And then just like,
Dumb mama.
it's always going to be Endgame for me. It's just like one of the most badass moments in Trek and probably all of television. If I'm being honest, I fucking love Endgame. So, Amy, I'm gonna just have you solely answer this question because I think honestly you could probably answer it better than the rest of us.
Yo. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Don't yo me. You're not supposed
it's
to be
midnight
here.
giraffe.
No, I'm kidding. No, really, I was gonna make you answer this by yourself, whether we were running 2 hours and
Okay.
30 minutes or not.
I'm ready.
Kate Mulgrew and Captain Janeway just have this massive legacy in the fandom, from science inspiration, being a leadership icon. Even though Janeway was never confirmed to, be part of the queer community, she still became a queer icon and just a role model for so many people. Talk to us about that legacy.
This is something I love talking about, but I will try not to go on too long. One of the best things about being one of the few people who was promoting Prodigy super regularly on social media, because it was really like me and Bonnie and Aaron Walkie and and yes, but I'm saying but from the team making
Right.
there was not a ton of because the kids are so young, and a lot of them weren't, and Ella Purnell not being very focused on her voice career, she's much more focused on her in-person career, which I get. But just Kate and Bonnie were the two accounts that were really interacting as part of the voice cast. And being able to see that parents were posting photos of their little kids dressed as Janeway, holding their coffee mug with their little bun. And it was just seeing those kind of posts where kids were excited to like pretend to be Rock Talk and like how to figure out, what's going on this week with science, and seeing the legacy that way was new and different because of the lens of Prodigy. And I think that's a great gift that Prodigy gave Kate and just gave the fans, where they can share it with their kids and have it be broken down into very digestible, little tidbits and lessons. And Kate recorded a whole series of videos. Paramount did this, and where it was like, this week's lesson is, and they talked about the episode, and she said why, she faced this challenge, and she, the crew faced this thing with John Noble's character, who's so creepy. He's my progeny. I can hear him saying it.
My progeny.
But Janeway's legacy is definitely one of scientific exploration, women in STEM, women in leadership. You don't have to be in STEM or STEAM, which we are incorporating more the A in STEAM lately, because so much of science does intersect with art. And in this case, which is true for all of Star Trek, not just Janeway, not just Voyager, is that Star Trek inspired us to do different things and to travel into space and to get public buy-in for space. And I think that the legacy of her, and Nana actually talked about it on our podcast, where she talked about opening a channel, where somebody said open a channel, and she talked to Samantha Cristoforetti on the ISS. Here she is, an actress who is pretending to be somebody in space, talking to someone who's really in space, because that's her job. And I think that that's the legacy of Janeway, where you can, point to so many cool people, usually ladies, because I was thinking of, Stacey Abrams and AOC and Samantha and other female astronauts that I've spoken with, and just anybody in the space industry. If I say like I was just at New York Space Week, Space Forum on Tuesday, and the week before, I wear a different badge every time I go to a space conference, and it's a nice talking point for people. And I say, what I do and how I've been part of the Star Trek fandom and working with Kate, and everybody just wants to talk about it. They just want to talk about Janeway. They're like, this is why I love Janeway. Boom, 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 boom. And they're like, give me their list. And I think that legacy of being able to kind of bring her up, professionally, and these are the people that are the real life Starfleet officers that you've inspired. That's her legacy.
Well, that's why I had you answer that question. Beautiful. Perfect. This has been really fun, and we still have to get through some mailbag.
My gosh.
I'm gonna skip through what did we miss, because Amy, you brought up some great episodes. What did we miss? If you have episodes that we didn't talk about tonight, throw them in the chat. We'll maybe read a couple as we go.
None of you better say Tuvix. All of your lives are over.
No, please don't.
Say Tuvix.
We'll try and read some of them as we go into the mailbag here, but. Amy, you just talked, so I'm going to give the first mailbag. People are looking forward to this one. Can you read Mars's mailbag, please, Hawk?
Mars wrote, what's better than tank top Janeway in all its forms and delete the wife? Let Janeway get hot and get her fuck on. Coffee after.
I'm glad you made Hawk read that. That's pretty
funny. Draft, go ahead with Matt Harker's, please.
Have it. I just lost everything. Where is it? Oh, I lied. It's here. Sorry. It's on my phone. Matt Harker wrote, what to say about the bane of existence for the Department of Temporal Investigations? She survived a year of hell, beat back species 8472, and handed the Borg Queen her ass for more than 25 years. There's a right way, a wrong way, and the Janeway.
Hey. I'll go ahead and read Fefs, who wrote, Janeway sets the example we all must follow with 4 rules. Said this a bunch today. Keep your shirt tucked in, go down with the ship, never abandon the crew, and coffee black. Hell yes. Yes. I'm giving you a long one here, Amy. Sorry. Could you read Champion?
Yeah, I can read it.
Yeah, Champion D's, please.
One of my favorites, it feels like a really underrated one, is when she took the Vidians to task in their first encounter. Mulgrew's performance was top-notch here. And take a message back to your people. If I ever encounter your kind again, I'll do whatever is necessary to protect my people from this harvesting of yours. Any aggressive action taken against this ship or its crew will be met with the deadliest force.
Such a good quote.
Another great one, among too many to count really, is in Voyager Conspiracy. Yes. Yeah. When she beams aboard the Delta Flyer and takes 7 back to Voyager. Then, of course, Year of Hell, Time's Up, as we mentioned. One of the things I love about Janeway is how complex she is. She's compassionate, but also tough as nails. She has steel, and the gravitas with which Kate Mulgrew portrays her is chef's kiss. My favorite Trek character.
Well said,
Mine too. What a coincidence.
Hey, Hawk, could you take Tara's here? You got a pretty cool one to do here.
Oh, cool. All right, Tara wrote, to me, To know me is to know about my Kate Mulgrew obsession, which all started with Voyager. To celebrate Janeway, my favorite captain, is to celebrate our incredible luck having had Kate embody her. It is only in the past 10 years or so that I've realized how perfectly cast she was and how fortunate the Trek universe is to have Kate take responsibility for Janeway's integrity for decades now, including Prodigy. She tells the story of meeting Patrick Stewart, where he advised her to invest with 100% of her being. Clearly, she took that advice to heart, creating and sustaining a Captain Janeway for the ages. I could go on, but instead I'll share a little acrostic to honor her. Janeway, Voyager, and Star Trek. Do it. Shall I read the acrostic?
Yes, you should.
Captain Janeway acrostic. C is for Chakotay, her number one Maquis. A is for Alpha Quadrant, where they all long to be. T is for photon torpedoes and her unending supply.
Yes.
T is for temporal paradox, best to just turn a blind eye. A is for anomalies, fun science mysteries to solve. I is for integrity, if only everyone was as evolved. N is for nanoprobes, such useful Borg tech. J is for judiciousness, found when our captain's on deck. A is for Arachnia, whose love Chaotica lacked. N is for Neelix, who liked to bring her coffee black.
Yeah, I like that one.
E is for exploration, her primary objective. W is for warp core. Only once was it ejected. A is for the astrometrics lab, where 7 could be found. Y is for Year of Hell, the ultimate badass rebound.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks,
Hawk,
Tara.
well done.
Thanks to Tara for that one.
Yeah, Tara, that's fantastic. Damn.
Good job.
Great job. Giraffe, take us home, please, with Dave Prime's mailbag.
Dave Prime wrote, everyone seems to be discussing Year of Hell, but her aha moment in Coda stands very high on my list. The boldness and toughness she asserted is a chef's kiss. Go back to hell, you coward.
Yeah. See, we are of similar mind on that one.
Folks, we made it from the Delta Quadrant to the Alpha Quadrant. We talked for almost 3 hours about the amazing Captain / Admiral Captain Janeway. Before we go, Amy, plug away. Where can people find you? What do you have going on?
You can find me at Amy Imhoff 1701 pretty much everywhere. And right now, like I had mentioned earlier, I am working on Neville Page's Kickstarter. So go back that and get some cool stuff, cool nerd stuff. And also please follow us at IMAP Space Mission, because it's me versus the algorithm with that one. So that is my NASA mission that I'm currently on, and we are scheduled to launch in September. So we have a ton of content we are planning leading up to launch. So
I'm so excited for you. That's
thank you.
so awesome.
It's cool. I'm enjoying it. And then also watch Dope Thief, because it just ended. And Kate was just out in LA doing a panel that I'm sure everybody saw pictures from, because she looked fabulous. So yeah, Dope Thief. Check. It's not your typical Trekkie fare, of course, but it's very well done.
Nice. Yeah, on Apple TV, I believe.
Yep, Apple
check
TV.
that out. Folks, that is going to do it for this one. I want to thank you, Amy, for joining us. I want to thank Hawk and Giraffe for spontaneously showing up due to peer pressure.
Yeah.
Could have been shorter.
It would have, but we also wouldn't have had your amazing voice. So
This was fun.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad you're here. Guys, please, if you're not subbed, hit that sub button. Give us a like. Help us also with the algorithm. Hit the bell to get notified when we are live. Next week, we're kind of still playing this a little bit fast and loose. Don't know what we're doing next week. We'll have a pod. It'll be live. It'll be fun. We'll see you then. 9:30 p.m. Eastern time next week. For Hawk, for Giraffe, for Amy, I am Julian. Live long and prosper. Majram, sarcastic Vulcan salute. Time to take out the trash. Good night.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.